I welcome everybody to this, our main meeting, and hope everybody's dealing with our wonderful weather we have. By opening prayer, we give thanks for the contribution by pioneers, early settlers, and for those who fought in the various wars for the fabric of Tenterville community we have today. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be accepted in thy sight, O Lord. Amen. Acknowledgement of country, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land that we're meeting on today. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Juckable, Kamilaroi and Bundjalung nations and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present. Councillors, apologies. We do have an apology from Councillor Mike Petrie. I'll move in a second, please. Councillor Don Forbes, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gary Berry, I thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, disclose some declarations of interest. I have a declarations of interest to do with item GOV 46/18 to do with the approval funding for the truck wash and also the NLIS amendment. I operate a small trucking business and also selling by cattle Tenterville Stadiums. No movement. Sorry. Yes? Yeah? Can you? I'm sorry, Councillor Bryan. Yes? Of course. Yeah, no, that's what I've asked for.
As a non-significant interest in both the truck wash and also the mountain bike.
What was the second one? I'm sorry, Councillor.
The mountain bike motion?
Okay. And mine, I apologise, but I've got a point, Councillor. Mine's less than significant and non-procurable. I'll be staying in the meeting. Councillor McNish.
Less than significant interest in the side outs.
Thank you.
Most of it clear on too. I still councillor in the side yard as well.
And councillors, I do appreciate that because it is something we need to be on top of. And myself as chairman to make us all aware that when we deal with that, we do need to declare all that less than significant. And thank you. So did you get all of them? Moving second that those conflicts of interest be accepted, councillors. We do need to fill in the form, councillors, so I need to remind us. So through the meeting today, please, if you haven't already done. But with that, can I have a move and a second to approve? That's Councillor Greg Sawyer, thank you. Second by Councillor Brian Murray, and I thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, confirmation of the minutes from the April meeting. Would someone who was in attendance at that meeting like they be approved as a true and correct record, please? Councillor Brian Petrie, second by Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, tabling of documents. No tabling of documents. Urgent and late supplementary items of business, councillors. Is that in the urgent and late? Yeah. Okay. So Councillor Bronwyn, to do with urgent late and supplementary items of business, you've got one. So just, I'll come here with respect. I'll need to deal with these. Councillors, we have an addendum, so I'll get those approved. The addendum items are GOV 45/18 and GOV 46/18. Can I have a move and a second that those addendum items be accepted, please? Councillor Greg Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Brian Petrie, Dr. Table?
Yes.
Yeah?
Do I read it? Can you put it in my phone?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the item or just look at it?
Just Councillor, what's to do with? Yeah.
Just regarding, I just want us to lobby the state government to provide temporary replacements for officers on long-term leave excess of 3 months in rural police stations. Okay,
so I'll just I see, Mr. Dodds, that's acceptable in the urgent late something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillors, we do have a community access consultation. We do have some speakers this morning, which is great. And the first speaker is Mr. James Prater, our Manager of Works. And to do with our monthly operational report, it's item GOV 38/18. So James, I'd ask you to come forward, please. Councillors, please welcome James, stand and welcome James to our chamber, please. Bet you never thought you said the councillors stand for it. Welcome, James, and before you do start, I do want to commend our staff for their making effort to come down and address council to do with our monthly operation report, and our CEO under his guidance and his very, very big support of that happening. So I think it's important for us as councillors. So welcome, James, and away you go.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors and council officers. Our monthly operational report, I'll briefly touch on a few of the projects we've got happening. The Killarney Road is progressing well. That's from Lagoon to the Queensland border there. We've done a number of pavement repairs, substantial repavement repairs, one from 450 metres long, and we expect to seal in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Our reseals throughout the Shire are complete and regional roads. The only one that's hanging is on the Killarney Road. Once it's tied over with a couple of those pavement rehabilitations that we're doing, so we'll reseal the whole jobs once we complete those. Graham's Creek Bridge on Graham's Creek Road is, we've done a refurb on that. We've replaced decking boards and running boards. We've got Cornwall to go. Just need it to shrink a little bit before we go and put it in, and we've got some NDWA works we'll do on the approach to that bridge as well. Scott Street in near the football field there is complete now. The footpath now links all the way out to the estate and right through town. The next bridge that we'll be doing is a 5 mile bridge on Gimli Creek Road. It's a timber bridge at the moment. We will replace that with the set box culverts. NDWA works for March 2017. We had 2 events, March 12 and March 28. We've commenced those works. I would use the terminology that we're basically nibbling away at the moment, and we'll be into full swing July, August, with an expected completion date June 2019, but we will be requesting extension of time to make sure that we do get completed on time. And we also have a number of recruitments occurring at the moment. We have interviewed in the last week. We'll probably continue to interview over the next month. We had a couple of positions that weren't filled. And that basically sums up my monthly operation report.
Thank you, James, and for your presentation, councillors. I will allow some questions to James if you wish. Councillor Brian Murray, and I'll go to you, Councillor McNish.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to know what the procedure is with when a work request goes in. What occurs there?
Right. When a work request gets taken by the girls, it comes to us normally as an email, and it goes into our Synergy soft system. So, for instance, if you put in a works request, it will highlight what the problem is. It will go to the attention of those officers, and normally I act off the email. I'll read the email, and then I'll get one of my supervisors to go and look at it. Or if it's something I'm dealing with, I'll go and deal with it. And it goes to the Synergy soft system, and it won't come off until such time as it's complete.
Well, if I may, I put one in 3 months ago, and there's been no response whatsoever from that works.
Good, that's noted, Councillor. I'll take that on notice and look at it up for me.
Thank you.
Councillor McNish.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. James, I talked to Brian Brogan the other day, and he told me you've been out there to look at his ramp and the damage to it. It's pretty obvious that the way the ramp is, the alignment of the ramp needs to be changed. He said you were going to do costings on it. Has anything come of that yet?
Yes. The road network management plan outlines, and our grid policy outlines the different widths of grids and whatnot. I'm talking with Brian. I've done some other costings for our part of the road, but there are some other issues there with the grid. And I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, I realise it's got to be 4 metres, it's only about 3 metres, isn't it? It's
Yes.
3 and a bit or something, but it's pretty obvious for a truck to, they just can't swing it around there.
If the grid were 3.6 metres, it would assist with it wouldn't take out corners of the grid. The embankment there is a little bit narrow as well, but it's fit for purpose for what our road network management plan outlines. And our priority as a council, I can put that up in the years to come, and that's what I spoke about.
Now, just on that, a lot more long trucks are using that road. And you said it's fit for purpose, fit for small body trucks like Peters, but not for 40-foot long trailers. Thanks, James.
Councillors, any more questions to James? Policy? James, no more questions. I do thank you for your time this morning, and I thank you for the outstanding job that you do and the staff out and about in our government area. I know it's not easy, and you have to be a bit of a diplomat, and you are, to deal with the requests that the people that you made. I know that personally, but I do thank you. And sorry, Councillor, you do have a question.
Sorry, I just did want to pass on to James. A local landowner did tell me one day that he was very impressed with James, and that it was a refreshing dealing with the council staff person in his position.
But we never rest on our laurels, James.
No,
Okay, so thank you,
thanks very much.
and I wish you well. Thank you. Councillors, our next speaker is Gillian Burchett. Gillian is our Manager of Water and Waste. Please, would you stand and welcome Gillian to our chamber.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gillian. Welcome.
I just got a bit of a presentation based on the operational report. I just included a few more pictures of this one, so I'll be helpful. Put in the operational report.
Thank you.
So I've actually got 3 areas to report on. And I'll do water first. So I just did a quick overview of what's been happening in our water area, water operations. So at the dam, the massive concrete floor is going really well, and it's continuing at an accelerated pace, and I believe it'll be finished when the contractors have estimated in June. We're still in level 1 water restrictions at the dam because we're below a certain point. And it's interesting to note that at the water treatment plant, we've dropped down to producing 1.2 meg a day. But at the sewage treatment plant, we're only getting 0.6 meg a day in. So there's more being produced than is coming out, basically. So what that means is that a lot of people are watering their gardens and using a lot more water than our plants producing. So it just shows you how much people are watering gardens at this time of year. I just thought I'd put in a little bit about the budgets so you could see, and it's basically following the same as the operational plan. So everything is moving as expected. I do have less staff at the moment. We've got a couple of vacant positions, so some of our works are getting pushed back. I still believe that they're going to be completed on time. Then I've got some pictures of the dam wall, and you can see that the mass concrete pour is going really well. And that's the valve hut, and in a few of the reports that I've given you, I've explained that the valves are being changed over in the valve hut there, and we had some problems with the trunnion arm, which will be replaced because it's corroded through age, basically, so it's going to happen. And the next photo is of the paddles in the filtration plant, and you can probably see them better in the operational report, but they're starting useful life now, and we need to replace those, so that's going to be happening quite soon. We started Clive Street, main replacement, and the mains that were in there are about 80 years old. And you can see that from the picture that the steel pipes are actually had their useful life. They're a bit corroded now, carbonising. And the other photos of the guys replacing the hydrant. We also had some emergency works up at the hospital. We had their fire system break, basically. So we did some temporary repairs there, and we'll be revisiting that situation next week. Just some more photos of them filling the area where they repaired, and we had to go out into the middle of the street to find the junctions. So that's why we had to go out there. Okay, just a quick thing on sewer services now. We did CCTV the major 375 line to see how the relining was, and to see, because we relined half of it when we had the sewer spill. So we wanted to have a look and see how the rest of the line looked. There was a lot of vegetation, and as you're probably aware, the EPA are still continuing with the prosecution of us. But my staff are quite on the ball, and we've got a very good response time when we have any sewer chokes. Again, just highlighted things through the budget, and my water sewer guys, I believe, will complete all the works that we've assigned for this year. And I've just put in a couple of pictures that are different from the report. The first one is, this is actually below the treatment plant where one of our discharge points is, and I just wanted to highlight how well the area actually looks. Our treatment plant, as you know, removes a lot of the nutrients, so there's not a lot of nutrients in the water, so it's quite a good thing. Next shot is of the pine tree. It's in the operational notes, and it shows you how big that pine is and where it actually is on over the sewer manhole. So we'll have to actually remove that tree. These are the sort of pictures that we get when we do CCTV work. I thought you'd find it interesting that you can see how root infiltration from trees is quite a big problem for mains. The next two photos are some, because of the age of pipes, we also get a bit of delaminating occurring, and so you can see that in those photos that there's some concrete in the bottom of one of the pipes, and some more blockage photos of fine tree roots that sometimes what happens is they ball and then they get pushed down the line and then they form blockages like that. Currently we're looking at the cleaning contracts so that we can get that section cleaned and relined fairly soon. Within the end of this financial year, start of the beginning of the financial year. And I just thought I'd throw in a couple of photos of some of the inspections that we're asked to do. So this was a request that came through me from Cindy and through the email system, like James was talking about. And even though this was for James, I didn't know at the time, so I went and had checked it out. So the drain had been filled a bit, so the works that will happen there is we'll reinstate that drain so that there's better drainage. This is another inspection that was carried out, and this was to locate some boundary traps, boundary shafts for people to connect their sewer to. And moving on to waste operations. So as you all know, we've had the Chinese have decided not to take any recyclables, or they've got a lot of opportunity to reject recycling things. So our chief executive has provided a waste to energy report, which was fantastic, and will help us in our efforts to try and resolve some of our issues with waste. We still have a lot of green waste, which is causing us a problem. I expect there's some grants that are coming out fairly soon that may be able to help us with those situations, which I'll be reporting on in the next operations report. Also, the Posi Shell looks good for us as an alternative daily cover. We're starting our trials at the end of this week to see how that actually works. The tip shops are going really well at the moment, so we are collecting some money from those, which is great. The budgets are reasonable for the waste budget. We're still looking at the report for the waste, so we just have to wait till we've reviewed that, and we might have to do a bit more work on that one. And the works at the industrial at the Tetfield Waste Transfer Station with the industrial bins. We've got a few bins there, and council put in a great copy of the workshop, so we're going to go with the workshop to get the industrial bins fixed. They've got all the equipment there so that they can manufacture the bins for us at a reasonable price, which is good news to keep everything in-house. This is just another example of the inspection. So this is what the the new CDS machines look like. They had a bit of a few hiccups to start with who was doing what with the waste. So that's all now been resolved, and this sort of image shouldn't happen in the future. This is a Torrington landfill. So this was an inspection that occurred, and when we inspected, we found a whole heap of cooking oil. As you can expect, it's an industrial amount. So those and the gas cylinders, which were actually, they had the tops broken off, so they weren't dangerous. So those were taken back to the Tetfield transfer station so we could dispose of them correctly. But that's the problem we have with Torrington being an open area. And this is a shot of Edenville, so you can see it's really neat down there. The waste is in good piles. And we did find a visitor in the recycling bay, if you can see him. So it was actually quite a large goanna. It was a bit freaky. And I attended the waste conference down at Coffs Harbour. It was amazing, some of the technology and the reports that were done. And I've just put in a couple of slides from some of the presenters. And one of them was Lismore, and they did a presentation on the glass recycling. And I've provided you with a picture of the plant, but they did have some issues with having to put that plant in so that they could make the glass smoother so that it wouldn't damage equipment and stuff like that, so they could use it for roads, and they use it for bedding pipe, and they use it for a lot of things in Lismore, so it's a good resource for them to use. And the second one I put in was, it was a very interesting topic about regulations in waste, and the presenter was talking about, in this slide, how there's not very much stability across the field, how everyone charges all sorts of different prices. So that's just an example of what different cities are charging per tonne. And that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Gillian, and councillors. As I did with James, I'll allow questions to Gillian if there's any questions from the floor, councillors. Councillor Berry, I'll go to you, Councillor McNish.
I love that hydroponic shop with the roots in the pipe.
Well, you did. It was good, wasn't it?
But when you clean those roots out, the question is, when you clean the roots out, do you reline those pipes so that won't happen again?
Yes, that's exactly what we do. So when they clean it out, they use it's like a big head, like you put down your sewer when you've got blockages. So it's like a rotating head, and they burrows it out, and they clean it out from there, and then we reline it. So I'm I'm going to try and time it so that we clean in this financial year and then reline in next financial year.
Councillor McNish?
Julie, has been any thought about using,
Oh, sorry. I'll
about
put my glasses on and then I can see you.
using surveillance cameras at the landfills to see who's dumping this illegal stuff?
Yes, I do have some cameras, and I'm going through a program at the moment of putting those up.
What, putting them up to council, you mean, or putting them up physically?
Putting them up physically.
I think that's a good idea, because only, you know, I've seen them advertised for, $200 and $300 at the base level, so they're not that expensive, I don't think it might be. And just the thought that they may be there might stop a lot of this.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised, even though we do have cameras in certain areas, and you'd be surprised that most people just ignore them. Yeah, so,
Okay?
yeah, they ignore them. And the problem with a lot of cameras is you have to get proper facial recognition or number plate recognition, and positioning them is quite an interesting feat without them getting knocked off.
Yeah, and I need to share with Councillor McNish in those heady days of, before we are where we are, at least in the Lagoon, they even stole the surveillance cameras. I don't know what they've done with them, but anyway.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but around at the new CDS, the
Yes.
vending machines, there is actually a camera up there. So it hasn't really stopped people dumping rubbish or any of that sort of stuff either.
Human nature, Jim.
That's it.
Any more questions, councillors, to Gillian? Councillor Bob?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you, just two, if I could. The dam.
Councillor, microphone, please.
Sorry, at the dam, the valve hut replacement, is that a large technical problem? For, obviously got a lot of water.
It is, and that's the reason why it's such a problem, is because we've got a time frame that they need to have the water turned off for 24 hours while they do the works. Unfortunately, the way our plant produces water and our storage capacity, we actually need that plant to be functional for at least 13 of those hours. Half the fun of trying to work out how we can get those processes in place is to see what's available. If we can use different pumps so that we can pump straight into the water filtration plant during the changeover, and also the valves control the water. So if we have to make sure that we can stop the water flow before we actually do any works in there. So that's what the trunnion arm is so important for, because it's a way of stopping the water. They're actually getting flow through from the trunnion arm. So we have to actually cap it off, cap the where the trunnion was, we have to cap it off so that we can seal it. So that just leaves us with the problem of trying to provide water to the filtration plant.
So would that affect the end time for the whole project?
No, it shouldn't. No, we just have to make sure in our planning that we've got everything in place first, so that when they do the changeover, we shouldn't affect any of that timing.
Excuse Joey, just I need to interject there. The project, just to clarify, Bob.
Microphone.
Sorry. Just to clarify, Bob, the project was always going to be complete in June, right? With extensions of time through weather and the like, right? That is now in July, right? This part of the project, the changing over the valves, was always going to be done some time ago, but what we did find, as Julian indicated, is that because of the age of the infrastructure, right, it doesn't matter which valve you're talking about, whether you're talking about the valve in the water treatment plant or the two valves, right, actually the three valves at the hut itself, they're all 80 plus years old, they're seized, they cannot be isolated. So to do the changeover, the water changeover, we've physically got to go, as Julian said, put a blank off bulkhead on the on the dam wall side where the water is, basically blank off everything and pump water to the water treatment plants quite independently, so the water supplies are impacted. So that's where we're at. That might impact the program a little bit at the end, but that remains to be seen. It might be a week or a couple of weeks, but by and large, we're pretty well on track.
Thank you.
Chairman, sorry,
Second question, Mr. Mayor.
yes, I'm allowed. Microphone, councillor.
What's a posi shell?
Oh, you took it out.
Posi shell is like a, the best way to explain it is, have you seen around roadways where they've done works and they spray that green
Yes.
stuff on?
Yes,
So what that does is, it's a mixture of grass seed and cardboard and some polymer to basically hold the works in place so that it doesn't erode. So what the posi shell does is the same thing, except we put it over the waste and it stops the waste from flying around. It's like it's a very thin layer over the waste so that we don't have to worry about vermin or things like that. And it saves us putting the thick daily cover on the soil, which just basically feels like our landfill.
thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Berry, and I'll close then, councillors.
Just a comment for John, Councillor McNeish's benefit. With the cameras at Lisbon, we actually caught somebody hunting in the dump.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, that's what we did.
What are they hunting for? You've got me curious.
Go ahead.
Cats.
Julian, thank you for your presentation and the time and effort you put into it, and with the questions that councillors have asked. It is important, and you play a major role in our staff, and I wish you well, and congratulate you for one. Please, people, I'm going to say that the whole position that you do, and you're a woman, and I do congratulate you. And we're fully supportive of doing that here at the council. Not like some political parties in the debate they're having today. So I do wish you well in your endeavours, and it is important in the update that you've given us, so thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Councillors, we do have our third and last to deal with our public access session. It's Mr. Chris Jordan. Chris, the Western Region Delegate and Chair of the Armidale Police Association. Chris, would you come forward, please?
Thank you.
Councillors, please stand and welcome Chris Bertone. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, councillors.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the invitation to be here today. So I'll quickly introduce myself. Chris Jordan's my name. So today I'm wearing a different hat to what I normally am. I am current serving police officer, but today I'm here in my role as the Police Association Delegate. So Police Association, if I can just touch on what a police association really is. It is the union arm of the police force. Yes, I have used that horrible U word, some people don't like. But we have a lot of differences to what people's perceptions are, what the unions are. And three things that I'll just touch on just to explain why we are and how dominant we are. We are all members of the Police Association are current serving police officers. So our president, our vice president, our treasurer, all current serving police officers. Myself, as an elected delegate and chair of a branch, we are current serving police officers. We also are apolitical, so we are not a division of the Labor Party or anything which most people perceive unions to be. Our motto, you can't see much, it's on my jacket here today. It's a good old-fashioned Aussie Peter Petty handshake. Because we're friends with those who want to be friends with us. And one of my organisers previously said, and we'll fight those who stand in our way. And it's a true story. So we're not aligned with anyone, but we're friends with anyone that wants to side with us. And that's why when the invitation was passed here today, we made it happen to be here today. And finally, when we say we represent the 16,000 members of the New South Wales Police Force, we can confidently say that because our membership numbers are about 99% of the entire police force. You look at other unions across New South Wales, they're 20, 30s, the Hunter Valley coal mines around the 40%. So we do give proper and adequate representation to the entire police force. So, can I just say publicly here and privately, well, I'll say publicly of course, I want to thank you, Tenterfield Shire, and you, Mr Mayor, for your public support of the police here in Tenterfield. The Tenterfield is a sub-branch to the Armadale branch, which I'm the chair of, and that's been so for the last 2 years. And this is highlighted only a few weeks ago when we had coffee with the cop in town here. And the corner store was packed out for the 2 hours, and it was notably there were members of this council that were there for nearly the whole time. So I want to thank you all for your public support for the police here. The campaign, what I'm here for today. Now, I'm sorry I didn't print out enough, but I've put out some copies of media releases that we've done. So what happened, how we're tackling this as a branch at Armadale. A week before we released the media release, I sent out a bit more detail to the mayors in our region, our police district. That includes Armadale, Uralla, Glen Innes, Tenterfield, Guida, Moree, and to our state MPs that cover the area, and to a number of other community groups like the CWA. Out of that, Mr. Petty, your mayor here, responded immediately, and that's something that the Police Association will not forget. And 100% behind the support that we're doing here for the prisoner transport campaign. Now, I've also had a number of other mayors reply, and it's really encouraging to see that. But notably, it was your mayor here that jumped on straight away. The prisoner transport campaign. Let me talk on that now. I've been in this job for 18 years, and I've been in the New England for the whole time. Ever since we've got here, we've been doing prisoner transports. Most people in the community aren't aware of what we really do in relation to transporting prisoners around, and that's one of our aims of this campaign, is that let's tell community what's really happening with the police that are meant to be here in your community to protect you. So for 18 years that I've seen, and you can tell some of the old boys, if you ask them, like Ram, who was here for 40-something years, they will tell you that they were doing it when they first come out of the academy as well. It's just something that seems to be inherited, is accepted, and but the problem is we're leaving communities at risk. The New South Wales State Plan is really specific that police primary role is public safety. We're there to keep the members of the community safe. We're not here to be Uber drivers or taxi drivers for prisoners to drive to Lismore, to Moree, to Grafton. If we're doing mental health transports, we're going to Coffs Harbour, we're going to Tamworth. We've even done trips to Orange in this region. That's not what the public expects, that's not what we expect. And I think if the public really realise what's happening, they'll be pretty cranky. And that's what one of our aims is today, is to get stuff out. So, as we all know, the current police minister and the Minister for Justice was the LIC here at Tenterfield. So, good bloke, absolutely he is. However, we're feeling, as the Police Association, he's letting us down in his current capacity. He knows the issues because he served here. He served in regional New South Wales. But talks have stalled, talks have been going on. I'm about to go to my 4th conference, which is a biannual conference. And ever since I've been going on the conference level, the talk of prisoner transport always is the forefront of the talks when we have a conference, but it just goes nowhere. So it's all talk and no action. So earlier this year, the executive of the Police Association said, right, that's enough. And we launched this campaign. The campaign so far includes an appearance before the Industrial Relations Commission. So we're back before the Industrial Relations Commission in June. Positives out of that is that New South Wales Police have been forced to talk to us. But this is an issue that's not going to go away tomorrow. They can talk all they want, but what we want is actual results and actions. So how does it affect your community here at Tenterfield? Well, let me share some horror stories. And I think that's the best way to do it. This year only. So on a weekly basis, no, I'll take that back. Often, your police here are taking prisoners to Lisbon. That means there's no one on the streets. So what happens if someone's life's in danger, or if there is a critical incident, or there's an emergency. They can't respond when they're in Lismore, correct? Absolutely. Your nearest backup will be hoping that someone's available to be on call at our home, to be called in, or it's Glen Innes. That's 92 kilometres away. It's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. So, recently, it was only within the space of this month, you had no police in here for a period of 6 hours because they were running full prisoners to Lismore Court, Lismore cells, where corrective services are based. However, there was issues down there. Corrective services also have a right of refusal to prisoners. So one of them was just a simple diabetic. No issues, just a diabetic. The good sergeant here had to get a medical clearance. If it wasn't for the grace of the Lismore Police, which means they pulled police off the road, the police would have been away from your community for a lot longer than 6 hours because they would have had to sit in the hospital, Lismore Base Hospital, waiting for a doctor to say that the prisoner's okay. Once again, not acceptable because it's putting the people in this community at risk. This is only known to town boundaries, but your remote areas, which of course we all know takes a lot longer to get to. Some other horror stories. Glen Innes Police pulled off the road. Just only last week when I just did an interview, the job came over here. The magistrate is asking for the police to come and pick up the prisoner. Only one car in Glen Innes. So that means that police first response vehicle was taken off the road to go sit in a cell in the court to look after a prisoner that's been bailed for prison. Is it the magistrate's fault? No. Because that's what we expect the magistrate to do. If someone needs to go to prison, they go to prison. But not at the expense of sending the first response police that we have to look after our community on the road. Last week, now it's the week before, we had, at Armidale, we had 3 trips to Kempsey. That's a total of 24 hours frontline police were taken off our street to be taxi services for prisoners to Kempsey Jail. Moree, for example, had 50 hours of a police, in police custody looking after female and juvenile prisoners. They've got the benefit, they've got corrective services at the back, but that's only limited. They only take male adult prisoners. They won't take female prisoners, nor will they take juvenile prisoners. Inverell Police, which is all part of our police district, are being recalled on their days off to run prisoners around, mainly from Inverell and Moree. So what's that? That can't be a long-term jeopardy. And we're like everyone else. We want our days off. We want to enjoy watching the footy, watching our kids play sport. We don't have to be on the phone 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, waiting to do our jobs. The district court judge that we got appointed at Armidale, which services the Tenterfield area, very good result because we're in the second location in New South Wales to get that. Now, I applaud our member from North Tablelands to get that there, but the job was only half done. Because what we're finding now is that we're taking police off the front row to sit in court when the corrective services don't come up to look after prisoners. Or, like happened last week, we had a female that was flown up by police officers from Sydney. We have to look after for a whole entire week in our police cells. The job of corrective services that should be done. Am I here today to stand here and bag other government agencies? No, we're not. What we're asking government for is that these agencies, the juvenile justice, the corrective services and mental health, be adequately resourced to service the communities like Tenterfield so that we can get on to do what we do best and what the community expects us to do. Some solutions that government's been putting out already. Well, we'll just call the police in on their days off. It's not going to work. You're going to have officers burning out. And what vehicles are we going to use? Today, I've put on your desk, and I'm sorry, like I said, I ran short. One was the second media release, which we're going to release today, about the suitability of our police vehicles. One that's pictured there is what we call the ice cream truck. What is in winter time, it is absolutely freezing when you're circulating cold areas. It's not suitable to transport human beings around. The other one that is commonly used here in Tenterfield is a small little dog box, and that's all it is, in the back of a Pajero. If you're half decent size, and you're sitting there for a you're going to cramp up. Right? We're talking about human beings. We're not talking about some animal or something like that. We're talking about real human beings who've made a mistake and are being punished by the courts.
Chris, I do apologise.
Yep.
I'll give you one more minute.
Yep, sorry.
You need to be.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. I do need timekeepers because I
Yep.
can talk. Like the good starts in the background. So what am I here today for? I'm here to share the horror stories, and I'm glad you guys have paid attention to what our campaign stands for. But we're asking for community awareness and support on this, and we want community to be part of this in supporting us, and this is what your mayor's done today. But and foremost, we're going to be taking this on until we get the real results. So we're asking for long-term community support. So I'll put it back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Ready for questions, queries, comments.
I will allow a couple of questions, councillors, if you will. Please be aware of our time frame. Councillor Murray.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, how do we manifest that by way of getting the message across to the Honourable Minister?
Yeah, for starters, doing what we're doing today. Yeah, so this is a start. So going public about this and being able to address the public, but addressing our state MPs, of course, because they're the ones that are making the decision in the end. But once again, I can release the horror stories and the incidents that are affecting our communities, and then we're just asking for people to support us on that. Yeah.
Councillor Bromley, Peter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris. And what other councillors may not realise here, and I didn't either till a couple of weeks ago, was that while we've been told that we have a full complement finally of our police, what we haven't been told is that when 3 of them happen to be on long-term leave, they are still counted as physically full complement. So we're actually down 3 or whatever already without them taking people away to do prisoner transport. And so for some time, of late, there's been one police officer in town by themselves for the day, that's it, and 2 at night, whatever it happens to be, so can correct me. So that further exacerbates the problem that you've raised to us. I'm happy to actually add to my urgency motion another motion to do this, and I'd suggest that we do it through a local member and through direct lobbying and also the Deputy Prime Minister with regards to rural areas. Deputy Premier, sorry. Yeah.
100% correct. I mean, that's very small. We call the New South Wales Police the thin blue line for a reason. In some places, it's ultra thin blue line, and like Tenterfield's is a classic example of that. So so there's an incident happens and something else happens. Who's going to come? There's no one else. There is simply no one else to come. That's exactly right.
Councillors, what I'll do, I'll go to Councillor Berry and we'll close out this question. Please respect that. The CEO wants to make a comment, so Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I see a lot of things as waste of police resources. This is I've got a couple of things first. Where I live, we rely on Queensland Police because of the state of the border. If there's an emergency, we can get Queensland Police. There's a couple other areas we can too. Further north, we're in Grafton, because then our police everything.
Sorry, yeah, urban movement, that are.
Yeah.
They're in North Coast.
And they're the same
Two
issue there as
precincts.
we've got here. Now, I think speed cameras are waste of police resources. It's the same issue, different subject. I think that should be done by, like it is in South Australia, by contractors or civilians. I don't know how you're going on that one, but...
Yeah, sorry, I won't be able to comment on that because I can only talk about the issue that we're on hand and subject to the campaign.
Please, councillors, and thank you, Chris, for your reply, but we need to focus on what Chris is here today. Terry, comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, perhaps with Councillor Bron Petrie's urgent notice, we could address Bronwyn's concerns in relation to the official police numbers versus the actual police numbers that are actually available to do policing work in the one recommendation by adjusting the mayor's recommendation and adding the dot points, since the mayor's recommendation is to write to the New South Wales Police Minister, the Honourable Troy Grant MP, and member for Lismore, the Honourable Thomas George MP, expressing support of the Police Association of New South Wales Armidale Branch campaign, highlighting the following and adding, subject to Councillor Petrie's condoning it, adding the point that covers what was brought up in relation to technical versus real operational staff on the ground.
Councillor Bromwell, to take on board our CE's advice, I mean, you're happy to do that, and we'll do it as a mayoral minute, which is what you want to do, which is similar, it's all to do with staffing, but we need to stay focused on what Chris is here today about. It's about transportation of prisoners and taking away the police. And as a council, I'm asking for our full support to support the police union and our local police to get this done.
Look, I don't mind if it's done in seriatim or whether it's just done as a separate item.
Because what I was going to do before our CE come with that advice was going to deal with this, with the support of the council, deal with your late item, and then we're going to have to spark that. So, but I'm happy to take that, being the move of the mayoral member, obviously, and I'm going to ask for a second out of respect, to add yours into this as a dot point. I do want to acknowledge James as such, who's come off on his day off to support Chris, and thank you, James. You know you're always welcome here, my friend.
Yeah, the only issue, wasn't an issue, it was just that maybe they could be two different issues, because one is obviously is the police, is the transport campaign, and the other one is obviously the local Tannerfield particular staffing issue. So they're sort of
two different issues.
Whilst they're sort of half the same, but they are inherently different. So
Through you, Mr Mayor, perhaps what we could do, we could put a second point there, write a second letter to the police minister so that they're two separate issues and they're not confused with the other dot point.
Yeah. Well, what I do as chairman, I do take advice on board. I think it is important we deal with this to show support to Chris as a separate item, and then I'll go straight to Councillor Bromwell and deal with that later item with support of the council. I think it's appropriate to be dealt with straight away, and then we might break this part out because they are separate, close but separate items. Chris, thank you so much. Before you go, I commend you on your passion. And from the moment that I spoke to you about, I knew your passion. I could see it in your handshake and in your eye that you are passionate about this, and my support as mayor is at least we can do. So councillors, the mayoral minute's there, and I will, out of respect, councillors, I don't need it, but I will ask for a second, please. Councillor Gary Berry, all in favour? And carried. Thank you, Chris. And please stay with Spargo, we won't be long with this.
You're right.
Councillors, to do with the urgent late supplementary item, we do have one from Councillor Ron Petrie. I think it is appropriate. Can I have a motion that we deal with this now? It sits in here. So we do Councillor Tom Peters, thank you. Second, please, Councillor McNish. All in favour? Against carried. So that we move the motion to deal with this now. Councillor Ron Petrie, I'll go to you to present your urgent late supplementary item, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The motion I propose is that Tenterfield Shire Council lobby the state government to provide temporary replacements for police officers on long-term leave, in brackets, in excess of 3 months, close brackets, from rural police stations. So I'm talking about statewide, not just here, because it is not good enough to have, we're not in the city where the next police station is 15 minutes walk away. So if someone, as Chris has pointed out, if there's not enough police, say here, your closest one is Deepwater or Glen Innes.
Right.
And it's too far for people in town, let alone for our rural community of a quite large shire.
Councillor, what I'll do, out of respect, please, we need to get your motion. So we do, I know you're passionate about this. We need to get your motion, then I'll go to you to ask you to speak, okay? So you go that to no. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Brett Sawyer, and thank you, Councillor. Okay, so I'll go to you, Councillor Brian Peter, to present, please. If you wish to speak. Yeah. No. Trying to control you, it's hard. It's all good.
Yeah, no, the whole thing is, it is not good enough for our community. We have less police numbers than we used to have years ago. And we have an extended shire. And it is unfortunate where it's portrayed to the locals that we've now got a full police complement. And yet, then they go, well, you know, there's no police here, why can't I get someone to come to me when I've got something that's happening? Unless, as we've heard, you're calling in people who are on duty. I know the sergeant's been doing night shift himself in recent times, and it has to be recognised that in a rural area, anywhere in New South Wales, we need to have a sufficient police force. We've been very lucky that our crime figures here haven't been overly dramatic, but it is still a large area for these fellows and ladies to cover, and I think the public does deserve better in rural areas, and they can't be easily. I think my suggestion would be that maybe they can have a team of casual replacements where it's long-term leave. We're talking about there might be some people who are away indefinitely, there might be some people away 18 months on all sorts of different types of leave. So that means that our police station just here, and I don't know what it is like elsewhere, could be down to 2/3 of their normal complement in practical terms for at least 2 years. And so that's why I move that we contact via the appropriate channels in a similar way to your Mayoral Minute. We have a separate day.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brexroy, being the second, did you want to speak?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I have no problem seconding Councillor Petrie's motion. If the police department says the staffing level at Tenterfield is 10, for instance, if people are on extended leave, the staffing level isn't 10. So they're not meeting their own criteria, and they need to remember that they've set the levels, not the public, and it's not a privilege to have a fully functioning police department in our communities across the state. It's a basic right.
Yeah. Councillors, it's a motion, so there's two speakers for it, obviously. I hope there's no one against. We are on a time limit. I'm going to get on with the councillor. So I'm not going to ask for any time, so please respect that. Councillor Bronwyn, being the mover, did you want to close with the motion?
Just one thing, with our current police here, if there's only one person on in the daytime, if there's an incident, that means one person is there, but no backup, until someone who may be on call can join them. So we don't have that immediate, so it's for their safety as well.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll put the motion, and it is a late and urgent supplementary motion that's been brought to us by Councillor Bronwyn Petrie. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We might break for a bit of smoke. Sorry.
Can we note that as a unanimous decision?
Yes, of course we can. Okay. I've been smacked on the wrist. I can't say we're going to break the smoke. This is from the top. I need a motion.
Break the smoke.
Yeah. Joe's nearly gone. Do it. Does it need a seconder? Find a seconder for that, please. Councillor Tom Peters. All in favour? Right. Thank you, councillors. We'll be back. Okay, councillors, welcome back. Can I have a motion to resume standing order? I apologise. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Council, continue on with their business paper. Do we need recommendation to deal with items in a confidential part of our agenda, councillors? So, can I have a motion, please, to deal with the items EC 011/18, ENV 11/18, ENV 12/18. That we deal with those in the confidential part of our meeting, please. Councillor Bob Reagan, thank you. Second by Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Carried. I do need to note, and it's just for those dealing with the hard copies, old-fashioned as I am, when we get to the item EC 011/18, there is a bit of a stapling issue there. Page 18 is ahead of 16, but I'm sure people with their professionalism wouldn't deal with that. It's just happened, all right? And please, if your document isn't like that, mine is.
How do we deal with it? Not will we deal with it?
Yes, exactly, councillor. But I do believe on your iPads it's all good. So I just want to note that.
On the iPad.
Beg pardon?
There's no staples on it.
No, but anyway, so we'll deal with that. Okay, in your hard copy, page 10, it's item EC 07/18, it's waste of energy feasibility study. Can I have a movement a second here, please, to deal with this item? Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Brett Sawyer, and I thank you. And I'll hand it over to our CEO, Mr. Terry Dawes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a fairly complex issue. It's a complex issue throughout the whole of local government. It's especially pertinent to Tanfield for a couple of reasons. Number one, our Bunno, the new waste cell, is nearing the end of its useful life. Number two, we're in a sweet spot as far as photovoltaic power generation goes. I actually think the sweet spot is deep water from talking to my electrical colleagues, but very similar generation climate here. And number three, the time is right to speak to the government about waste to energy, photovoltaic energy and biogas, due to a growing momentum right across the country, basically driven by the fact that half the coal-fired power stations are going to be kaput within the next 20 years. So to give council an idea of what that means, even in a waste to energy generation situation in Kaiwana in Perth, Macquarie Bank is funding a $400 million waste to energy plant which will basically consume 80% of the whole of Perth's waste. It will drive a 40 megawatt plant, which is roughly the same as which will supply electricity to the tune of about 8,000 homes with a 5 kilowatt photovoltaic on their roof. So even with that amount of energy, it's not a lot. Considering an average coal-fired power station produces about 750 to 800 megawatts, 40 megawatts for all the waste or 3/4 of the waste for the whole of Perth isn't going to solve the base load problem. But if enough areas throughout the whole country, bearing in mind, there used to be 565 local governments in Australia, but there's probably 30 less now since the amalgamations in New South Wales, so say 530. 3/4 of those are in rural areas. If half of that if half of those councils were to be able to produce energy from waste, not only would it help solve our burgeoning waste problem we've got right across the whole country, and indeed most of the Western world, but it will go a long way to improving that deficit that we're going to have with energy production over the next 20 years. This report, I want to be very, very clear, and I want to put it on the public record, I do not know the answer. I'm not sure whether this is doable, but what I'm very, very certain of are the questions. And I'm also certain there's no answers, which is why this report seeks to engage other levels of governments and other agencies to help find out whether my hunch and those answers are correct or not. Yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, myself, the Mayor and the Manager of Finance and Technology had a phone conversation with ARENA, which is the Australian Renewable Energy Agency in Melbourne. They're a subsidiary of an agency through the federal government. We spoke to 3 officers from ARENA who said they support the process. We'd have to go through a quite rigorous application process, but after them reading the paper on the website and reading the report, this report that I'm talking to now, they couldn't see any fundamental reason why they wouldn't be supportive of co-funding the feasibility study, which is very good news. But additionally, and it says so in the report, if the feasibility study positively confirms that the Council's aspirations are technically sound, the result has the potential to benefit all local government areas. It is for this reason that the writer believes that the cost of answering the questions should be shared. It will not be possible, nor is it fair, for Tenterfield Shire Council to harbour the cost imposition alone. To that end, a report has gone to the New England Joint Organisation, which will be heard next Monday in Uralla, and I put it to council that we seek the joint organisation support to split the other half of the co-funding up, so that if the 6 member councils on the JO agree that it's a good idea, that the cost imposition for Tenterfield is 1/6 of half, or 1/12 of what the total feasibility study would cost, of which I've got no idea what that is, but you've got to crawl before you can walk, and you've got to set the scene. The Australian Renewable Energy Agency yesterday gave council 4 jobs to do to ensure that our output and our efforts are aligned to something that they can fund. Should council view this report positively, that's a great help to us from ARENA, because at least they've told us what the hurdles have been and what the challenges have been in the past. I put it to the council. If you've got any questions, now's the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for your presentation. Councillors, questions to Terry to do with the report. Councillor Tom Peters.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question to the GM. Is the idea to attract waste from other councils? You know, if we go ahead, where is the plant going to be situated here in Tenterfield? Or is it going to be further south, so it's more in the middle of joined up with the JOs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's unknown. It largely will depend on the business economics and the type of plant used. When we were speaking to the Australian Renewable Energy Agency yesterday, the technologies they've seen to date indicate you need 80,000 tonnes a year. We produce 50,000 tonnes a year. Having said that, no one's asked the question to them about how to reduce scale, not increase scale. So how to, yes. What's happening throughout the whole country, what's been happening since the 50s with the electricity industry, which I've tabled in my report, is that with sophistication and with increasing technology, costs increase, and therefore scale needs to increase to be able to have lower unit rates per cost. As a society, we've concentrated on increasing scale for 78 years, since the original Electricity Commission was formed in 1950 or 1951. My question to the regulator and my question to ARENA yesterday was that, has someone looked at how to reduce scale such that a mini microgrid plant could go in and reduce carting waste from one side of the country to the other? My gut feeling is that when someone looks at a business case for anything, they negate the environmental impacts. They often negate the environmental impacts of the transport costs, and they concentrate on the environmental impacts of the actual whatever they're doing. One of the questions in my paper is whether or not we should be engaging an environmental economist that looks at the high-level environment in parallel with transport economists, marketeers and other people, such that somebody looks at it from a holistic point of view, not just a single point of view. Having worked in the electricity industry for 9 years, my feeling is the closer a waste-to-energy plant is to a substation, the less friction loss. Having said that, you've got to weigh up the transport costs to move stuff around as well. For example, you might save a 10% friction loss by having a waste-to-energy plant close to an input, a sub-transmission station or a substation where you can input into the grid. But in doing so, to save 10% in friction loss over there, you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars and worn out 5 roads over the other side of somewhere. So the business case for this is going to be, it's hard to fathom how complex it's going to be, but it's going to be extraordinarily complex, and it'll have to answer all those questions, which is why I think we'll probably end up needing to hire an environmental economist because some of the arguments that I've seen on TV in the last 2 weeks have been very emotional and subjective and complete rubbish, really. And I've mentioned that in my report. I'm not saying for a minute that 50,000 tonnes is doable. Matt from the Australian Energy Renewable Energy Agency yesterday said 80, but he put a caveat on that everyone that he's spoken to is chasing increasing scale, not decreasing scale. Did that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. Now, one more question.
Of course you can, Councillor.
When you generate the heat from burning the rubbish, right, what are you going to do with it? You're going to heat water to make steam to run the generators, or how are you going to generate the power?
There's half a dozen different ways, there's half a dozen different ways to do it. Depending on the level of sophistication, the lower level of sophistication is heating up water that makes superheated steam that spins a turbine and generates electricity. At the other end of the spectrum, the heat is generated from a chemical reaction, and the last one, which is a PAG plant, plasma arc gasification, actually burns at 11,000 degrees. Now, the more you heat steam, steam becomes a gas, and the more pressure that gas makes, because it expands exponentially once it gets over a certain number of degrees, the greater the speed the turbine, or the larger the turbine you can use, and hence the greater amount of electricity you can generate. There's 3 companies in the world that specialise in this sort of thing. They're European-based. Europe's currently got 35 waste-to-energy plants in operation. Sweden's probably been going the longest. But just about every country in Europe now uses waste-to-energy. In fact, Sweden import waste because they can't produce enough power just from their own waste, believe it or not. And they charge other countries for the privilege of giving it to them for them to make money out of the power. So when you look at the half a dozen different varieties of plants, you've then got to redo a business case and recalculate all the friction losses and transport costs that would then determine whether or not that plant at that level of heat with that amount of steam produces the right amount of energy to offset the cost of you burying your waste. So there's no one answer or one right method. Every time you ask a new question, you've got to start again and work back through your decision support matrix. So I understand that it might be construed that I'm beating around the bush, but I haven't got the answer. There's a dozen alternatives to just about every plant, and there's 6 plants, so there's 60 different alternatives just with that, without looking at whereabouts in the grid it goes, where you transport it, what you transport, what we're allowed to do under the LEP, what we're allowed to do under the state plan. It's actually a federal issue, this issue. We've actually got to get permission at a federal level to do this. It actually goes above the state plan. I've dealt with, and I'm not going to name names, I've dealt with agencies for a long time in this position, and I've got my doubts whether all agencies at a state level have got their head around it even. I think at a federal level they have. I'm hopeful that the state catches up pretty quickly, and a lot will be determined about what happens with the hearings that are happening at the moment in Eastern Creek. The hearings for their waste-to-energy plant started about 2 weeks ago, and it'll be interesting to see what decisions they make. There's a whole page of regulatory and statutory requirements. It's the longest list of regulations and statutory requirements I've ever seen for a project. To make it even more difficult, some of them contradict each other. For example, the recycling people speak about a circular economy, and within 24 hours of the Kowana plant in Western Australia being on the news, I received an email from a recycling association saying how bad it was and how we should recycle, and which was my gut feeling is that it would have been sponsored by the cardboard industry. Now, I've intimated in my report that depending on your point of view, Tenterfield should concentrate on the benefit for Tenterfield, not the benefit for someone making cardboard packaging in Beijing or Shanghai or something like that. Depending on what your point of view is, it's either a good or a bad thing. If you're the person, if you're a shareholder of a company that's making good money out of the recycling industry, you're certainly not going to like waste-to-energy plants. The theorists say that waste-to-energy is further down the scale of a pyramid. If you think of the food pyramid, waste-to-energy is the second from the bottom in circular economy pyramid. They're saying that it's more beneficial to recycle it and use less energy in the process of making the goods in the first place than it is to extract the energy from the goods at the source. My argument is that's exporting profit from Tenterfield to somewhere else if that's the case. So we're going to be up against that argument as well. Big business has got an interest to keep the status quo. There's a lot of money being made by very few people in the recycling industry at the moment, and a lot of money being spent by people who think they're doing the right thing to support those people making that money. I don't think that's very clear to the public at the moment. I think the public have got an inkling, but to follow the money trail will be quite difficult. Again, big business will sponsor associations and groups that are more than one cash exchange from them so that they can appear not to be in the background. We'll be up against that. We'll be up against political groups that want to make waste to energy and other forms of energy management. They want to use it as a political pawn. We'll be up against that. So I wish we could have picked a project that was a little bit simpler, but Tenterfield is facing the perfect storm at the moment. Having said that, I've never seen so much interest from both the state and federal government with the energy industry at the moment, mainly because there's been a vacuum in energy policy for base load production for the last 10 or 15 years. Did that answer your question, Tom?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to commend you on the report. I think it's a very good report.
Fully supported. Councillor, we'll go to Councillor Berry, Councillor Forbes, and then you, Councillor Bromfield. Councillor Berry.
Thanks. Actually, you've answered most of my questions.
Right, I'll move on.
I've still got a bit more to go, but similar law
To the report, yes.
Just a comment there on this part of it. Similar law play GST on this waste. I don't think there should be any problem with the government give us any of that GST back in the form of a grant to study this possibility of having a station there. But General Manager, have you got any info on the amount of CH4 and CO2 that we lose from our dumps as it is? Not that I want to use it, but to use it in the fact that that CH4 is a worse greenhouse gas than CO2, and we should be using that in our argument as well.
Good point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on the bottom of page 11, on the second paragraph up, I've said that pollution needs to be, at the very least, less detrimental than the current management systems, hiding waste in a big hole. The pollution offsets need to be tabled and robustly considered. The reduction in current pollutions, such as methane, leachate and CO2 via transportation, needs to be considered and compared in parallel with any newly introduced technologies and hence pollutants. So what you're saying, Councillor Vera, is exactly what I'm saying there, is that, and my last paragraph, and I agree with you 100%, is arguments the writer has seen to date conveniently negate this, instead only concentrating on energy used to manufacture something in another geographical area or country, new pollutants, or don't reflect the benefits of the local community. Methane is 16 times worse than what CO2 is, and yet the whole world is concentrating on CO2.
Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, just a couple of things through Mr Mayor to the seat. You mentioned that there four
Microphone,
activities.
Councillor, please.
You mentioned there were 4 activities when you discussed with Arena yesterday about you've got to do. I just wondered what the time frame is you need to get back to them. That was one thing, and the other one is the feasibility study. Do you have a gut feel of how much that would cost? And just a third one, could you just clarify what you mean by the definition of a circular economy, please? I just want to make sure that I have the same understanding of what's meant by circular economies that you're alluding to. Thank you.
Okay, Arena didn't give me a time, but conveniently what they've asked for, we've almost got anyway, which is basically a definition of the scope. It's not in so many words, but the scope is actually in this council report. How do we, in one sentence it would be, how do we design something at a smaller scale such that we don't need a large economy of scale to reduce our waste burden? So that's the scope. The dollars, this isn't going to be cheap. I'm expecting somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 to do a feasibility study, depending on how much help we get from other people who are well-meaning but maybe not so. A circular economy is the continual reuse through repurposing of something. For example, if we look at cardboard, which is a really good one for the waste industry because it burns so hot in a POG waste to energy machine, the circular economy for cardboard is once it's recycled, it gets remanufactured and then sold back to us as boxes. So in a perfect theoretical environment, you're reusing the cardboard over and over again. Unfortunately, there's some flaws with people's argument about the circular economy because they don't take into consideration, they take into consideration the economic paradigms, but they don't take into consideration how much pollution is made carting the cardboard from, for example, Tenterfield to Port Augusta or Port Pirie, where it's put in a boat and sent somewhere else to be recycled and then comes back again. So when I say that we need to look at it at a helicopter view, I'm saying that we need to look at the pollutants from a helicopter view as well as the economy from a helicopter view, because I don't think when people talk about a circular economy that that's all taken into consideration. It's the same as what Councillor Berry said about the methane. The EPA's current regulation and current guidelines talk about landfills. The Europeans have stopped using landfills 14 years ago. So even our own regulators are out of date. As soon as the Kawana plant was made public, and look, there must be more money in it than what I think, because Macquarie Bank isn't exactly known as their a social pariah. They're more known as a millionaire factory because everything they touch turns to gold. They wouldn't be spending $400 million of their own money if there wasn't more money in releasing the waste to energy than what there was in recycling. The recycling industry would have you believe otherwise, though. And they use the argument that waste to energy is lower down the pyramid than what recycling is, as is described in the circular economy. What my report says, and it says, protecting an objective and rational answer from being sabotaged by emotive and irrational arguments will be more difficult than the assessment of technical, environmental and economic endeavours. At the time of writing this report, there were television interviews showing crying, almost hysterical people who oppose an incinerator being built at Eastern Creek, Sydney. And I've said, to describe a plasma arc gasification unit as an incinerator because you're old enough to remember your neighbours burning leaves in their Besser Block incinerator in the 60s is akin to describing the Voyager 1 spacecraft as a large aluminium can. The the same level of hysterical or the same hysterical nature of description I put down to the circular economy. People are saying, oh, we must recycle plastics because we're saving the petroleum industry. So we'll export plastics to somewhere else. Someone else will make money out of it, sell it back to us at a profit, and we think we've done good by the environment. And yet, on the flip side of the coin, we're burning coal, which is producing CO2, pumping it through 700 kilometres of high transmission lines at a 10% loss to use here, and we don't think anything of that. So, by hiring an environmental economist to look at the big picture will actually, I think, will thwart the irrational arguments in relation to circular economies, in relation to recycling, in relation to the net effect on the environment, as per what Councillor Berry said, and in relation to the political groups that I suspect will be funding some of these protests around the country.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll go to Councillor Bromman, then you, Councillor Bob. Councillor Bromman, Peter.
I think mine's reasonably simple. I was just wondering, with the feasibility study, what, I know you say don't think it'll come in time for our issue with Bundaberg, but what time frame would you realistically see a feasibility study?
I think it's going to be a photo. My personal opinion is that it will be a photo finish in finding out the results of the feasibility study in relation to about the time that the Bundaberg cell fills up. My gut feeling is about 2 years. It depends on how much or how many roadblocks other agencies put up, not necessarily how fast council can do the work. There's 3 or 5 worldwide consultancies that, given the money for the feasibility study, we could have the whole tender done and dusted in 3 months, and then working on it. The issue is going to be, when you look on the policy and regulation page, which is page 12 and page 13, there's more than 24 different acts, and therefore there's going to be more than 24 bureaucrats that are all going to want their 2 bobs worth. And depending on the level that bureaucrat is within the system, they're going to have their own interpretation or own views of what that interpretation of that act or regulation or policy guideline is. I suspect we're going to spend more time on politics and putting out irrational arguments and self-centred and biased views from other bureaucrats than what we are actually doing the waste to energy study. Where it's been done successfully in Europe, it's the technology and the environmental benefits have already been soundly proven. I'd be interested to see how long the process took in Western Australia with the Macquarie Bank funding the 40 megawatt plant. But I appreciate your question. Largely dependent on other agencies, but I guess 2 years. I understand of our Chief Operating Officer that Banu is looking at 3 to 3.5 years before it's full.
The existing cell will fill up in 3.5 years, but that just means that between now and the next 3.5 years, we've got to be committing to preparing for the next cell.
Yep.
Right, so there's money that's got to be spent at Banu, right? That landfill potentially could be there for another 50 years, but each cell is only good for about 8 years, right, before we've got to build another one.
Councillor Bob Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, through you, CEO. Look, some of my question has already been answered. Don asked about the dollars and you explained what your thoughts were on that. So leading on from that, we're talking about the recommendation here, which is basically to seek support for a feasibility study. So who do you think would be carrying out the feasibility study? And how, because surely that would depend on the amount of people, the qualifications of the people, whether they're from universities, the energy industry or somewhere, would depend on who they were, the likely cost, because if we didn't get enough seed money to get the right quality feasibility study done, we'd end up back at square one. So who do you envisage would be involved in the feasibility study? Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Fortuitously enough, that was exactly the question that the Executive Director of ARENA asked yesterday afternoon, suggesting that it would be an engineering consultancy firm. I said no. I said that if an engineering consultancy firm, which has advised various governments throughout the whole world on multiple occasions before, completed the study singularly, we'd get biased, or it would be a peer of a biased study. Then the ARENA suggested, but based on my report, a university. I said no. A university alone would give us a bias report and a report fraught with danger. And I didn't say these words, but basically because university people are theorists and they've got no concept of the word time. And then the third thing was councils. And I said, no, only a council knows what's happening locally, but hasn't got the resources to academically back up what they say, or the engineering nous to know what's going on overseas. So my answer to ARENA was all three plus ARENA to be on the project management group. We need academia because we need someone with credentials so good and so pure that we can thwart the emotive and subjective arguments. We need an engineering firm that is experienced in developing this such that we don't develop a lemon. We need the support of at least a JO such that we don't harbour the feasibility cost on our own. And we need ARENA such that if it gets to the stage where we spend $300,000 or $500,000 and we need another $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 to finish it, that they've got skin in the game and wish to continue the contribution. So my answer to ARENA is the same as my answer to you, Councillor, is that we need ARENA, an educational facility with unparalleled credentials. We need an industry consultant that's done lots of these in lots of different situations, and we need the support of the JO such that when we get to a political hurdle, and I think there'll be a dozen of them at least, that we've got the support and enough clout politically with both state members, the federal member, and at least 6 councils, if not 7, depending on what happens eventually with Narrabri, to rattle a sabre. Thank you.
Councillors, I will finish with the questions now. I think it's been very detailed. I commend you on your questions. Just in a wrap up, with a couple of things to do with this, Council, I thank you all very much for your continued support to our CEO in the outstanding effort that he has been doing and still does to deal with this. And just remember that he's got the council to run also, not only do this. If we did not show that support to our CEO, right from the go-get, we'd say, go away, you're another. We wouldn't went anywhere. But council, as I do, I'm interested in to learn about this, and it goes back to us taking on board of the huge issues that we're going to face with our waste problems. So I do thank you and commend the council on the support they've shown our CEO. Just a couple of things that are already organised, and as Terry's indicated, next Monday we'll be asking for support from our newly formed JR. We've already got support from our rock group. And Terry's done a wonderful job of organising, while we're in Canberra, a meeting with the Energy Minister through a federal member, and we'll be giving him a heads up in town here the first week of June also, before then. So a lot of things in play, and we all need to be aware there'll be two elections, state and federal, before we get anywhere with this. So there could be change of ministers, and there's plenty of things in play. But I think it's a good thing, and for the continued support, and for our CEO to know that he's got that support going forward from the whole council is a good thing, and I do thank you. So reports there, councillors, all in favour to receive the name. Again, carried, thank you. Councillors, move on to page 22. It's item EC09/18, local transport, roads and transport costs for Hilton and Alice Springs. Can I move and second to deal with this one, please? Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Brian Petrie, thank you. And hand over to the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is a pretty simple one. I normally don't, I normally don't, or normally wouldn't wish to go to Transport Congress, but the agenda for this Congress is more political and economic than it is roads. And therefore I thought it would be advantageous because it will probably involve downstream more advocacy work than technical work, based on what the agenda was, so that's why I put the report up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Questions to CE, councillors? Councillor Brian Murray.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, but the GM has answered some of my questions because I felt that it was an awful lot of money to get out of it was going to cost.
Yep.
To send 2 people to Alice Springs. What are we getting in return? I'm asking. On that.
Leave, I'm happy to too.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure, but the agenda is lined up on economic modelling of road funding, and what I'm hoping to achieve from the Congress, if there's something that is really silly, put forward as an idea to be able to talk against it, and if there's some intellectual property that I can harvest that would help us in the future, particularly with advocacy, that I can bring that away, having spoken to the horse's mouth, so to speak, or listen to the horse's mouth. A lot of, well, most of the road congresses and infrastructure meetings that I've ever been to, it's not so much what is spoken about by the speakers, it's the relationships that you build with the people who are in positions of power and influence that you can then draw on later that make the difference.
And we're supportive of our CE, Councillor Murray, and good question, because that's what it is all about. You know, and even the Rose Conference that we attended in Toowoomba, and our council actually presented at the Rose Conference to do with the success we had with the Road Alliance to do with Lagoon Woodmore, which was a great honour, and so to go to these and attend and compare notes with other councils similar sizes, the issues that they're facing and how they're going about raising funding or getting attendance to roads by the governments of the day, that's what it's all about. But I support the CE initial reply. Any other questions, councillors? Other questions? All happy to receive a note. All vote? Against? Carried. Councillors, move on to page 24, item EC08/18, Tenfield LGA Timber Bridges update. Can I move in a second to deal with this, please? Councillor Berry, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Andre Kumpler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, you would all be aware that going back to the last, November-ish of last year, we had an issue on one of our bridges, namely Beery Creek Bridge, up near Urbanville, which failed quite without much notice. And Council was put in a position of having to effect some sort of immediate load limit on that structure. I went out to that bridge, had a look at what was going on, looked at the structure and observed how the structure was responding to 5-tonne loads, and determined that, look, we needed to place an immediate load limit on that bridge whilst we plotted a way forward for some sort of interim structure being put in place, which we do now have. That was the catalyst for some longer term planning around our timber bridges in our local government area. As you'll be aware, we have 58 timber bridges, and those structures, as you can see on page 29, are spread all over the Shire. That said, we have a road network management plan and a hierarchy in our network of our roads. And what part of the risk management process involves going forward is trying to do things in order of priority. So our roads are rated according to category 1 being the highest priority, to category 4 what we did was looked at mainly our category 1 and 2 roads and the bridges that were on those roads. Those roads are the most heavily trafficked roads. They've got, they may have bus routes on it. The upshot is that we started reviewing the condition of our bridges at what's called a level 3 inspection. That is a structural engineering inspection that independently determines what the long-term load carrying capacity or the service load carrying capacity for that structure is, such that if you apply that load limit over time, that structure should be able to stand up to the load that's being imposed without catastrophic failure. Now, part of the problem that we have, Council, and part of the dilemma that we've got going forward is that we've got a lot of old structures that were built a long time ago, and like some of our neighbours, we're in the position where we have to replace those or look at a solution to providing the level of service that the community needs to still be connected and do what they need to do. We can't go and replace 58 timber bridges in one foul swoop, but what we can do is that we can go through a process of trying to make what we've got last, and the bigger picture is that we come up with a strategy for dealing with those structures going forward. And where we're at right now is that I'm in the process of looking at that strategy. We've had, since the Bury Creek failure, we've had 17 of our structures, the most heavily used structures, looked at, reviewed. The reports on each one of those are quite voluminous and technical. We've been through those reports, and might I say that for a lot of those structures, the sort of things that need fixing to basically renew the structure, dare I say, is almost a case of a replacement scenario. It's okay. For a lot of the bridges, it might well be that the piers, right, or the supports, the pile trestle supports, are long past their use-by date. You combine that with girders that are well and truly compromised. Once you start trying to fix a pier support, you pull off the timber deck, you pull off the girders, you're in a scenario where you're having to do a lot of work to just replace individual elements. So, dare I say, part of the strategy in the long term will be to have some sort of replacement put in place, or it might be some sort of a causeway or a culvert structure. That'll be part of the strategy, but right now we've got to make things last, and this is part of the process. So what we're doing, we're flagging with the community that we are going to be needing to possibly, well not possibly, we will be load emitting structures, but what we need to do is go through a process of engaging with the community to just let them know, or find out what are the alternatives, what are the impacts, are there reasonable detours, what those detours might be. It might well be that some locations there's scope to do an at-grade temporary creek crossing, which we have to work with fisheries on. But we've got to work through that process. So I'm flagging with you now, councillors, that we need to put something in place and we need to work through the process with the community, and that's what this report's about. Open to you for questions.
Thank you, Andre, for your presentation. Councillor's question to Andre to do with this. Councillor Berry, yes?
Through you, Mr Mayor, to this Chief Operating Officer. On the Mount Lindsay Road, you've got the Carroll Creek Bridge. Was that one checked at all? Because the previous engineer told me it was some funny name of type of bridge, and it's just about had it. It looks all right on the top, but down underneath it's pretty cool. So I just
didn't make the cut.
No,
Councillor did. No,
that's what I'm wondering.
Through you, Mr Mayor, look, we're concentrating on the timber bridges, and we're going through in order of priority, Councillor. So what we've got on Mount Lindsay Road, from the timber point of view, right, is the main one, which we have flagged, and you know, that bridge has been picked up. Once outside of that, yes, there are other bridges on the Mount Lindsay. They're all timber. Some of them are concrete, some of them are steel. They're all at varying stages of condition, but we're focusing in on timber right now.
Yeah. Apparently that one is timber piers with the cement deck or something like that. So, and as you said, it's like a name after an engineer, I just don't know the name of the type.
Can I suggest, councillor, that perhaps we have a discussion outside of after this meeting on the precise name and the location? We'll double check that. We're working on the asset register that we've got at this point in time, according to priority, through a priority process like that. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor McNish.
Okay, just on that, Hawkins Gully, I presume that's the one just on the Villa River Road, about 2 kilometres on the road, is it? Little narrow one with no sides on it.
Is it listed here, Councillor?
Yeah, it's with the 7 tonne.
Oh, okay, Bill Ruby, I think, yep.
And that's the one I'm thinking of, and I'm sure it is. I know there's no signage next to the bridge. I looked there yesterday. 7 tonne limit, that's going to preclude most trucks from going down the Rocky. The only other way they can get across, from my point of view, is across Cook's Road, which is not really suitable for large trucks anyway. And now, it's only 4 or 5 years ago, I know Dennis Loader was the bridge man, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, that whole decking was replaced. So, obviously I was putting new decking on an old bearers, did they?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I cannot speak for what's been done in the past, council, but going back to your original question, the specifics of the precise bridge, it doesn't show it on this particular tabulation, but we've got GPS coordinates of exactly where that bridge is, and we've got the pictures, etc. At the end of the day, where we've picked on specific structures that are listed in our asset register, and we've noted what needs to be done. Now that said, yes, there is going to be some potential significant impacts that's going to throw in some detours. It may be that after we talk to the stakeholders, it's too much of an impact, and we've perhaps got to go and look at what plan B is there. You know, I was in a situation once at another council where there was just one way in, one way out, and this particular bridge needed a 10-tonne load limit put on it. Now that caused all sorts of grief. It required 150k detour, right? And do you think that was popular? Do you think that was well accepted? No, it wasn't. But we had to do what we had to do. What we ended up doing too was putting in a temporary detour around to at least, how would you say, minimise some of the impact. So part of going forward is, yes, we do have to talk to the stakeholders a bit more to better appreciate what the impacts are. But what we also need to do though is start to, how would you say, look after the bridges that we've got, just not put our head in the sand and forget about them, and then you end up having, you know, a B-double or some overloaded log truck goes over the top of it, and then we end up with, you know, half the truck in the creek or whatever.
Councillor Rowan, Pedro.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to divert, on log trucks, they're never over 25 tonne, which is actually less than some of our cattle trucks that are floating around, so let's not get carried away with log trucks all the time. I was just wondering, with the proposed load limit, that Hawkins Gully one is the one that at John Gowers, it's got this proposed 7-tonne load limit. The one below it, the Swamp Oak Creek one, actually doesn't have a load limit suggested, so I was just wondering about that. Okay, Hawkins Gully, yes, if you did it up, you could use Common Road. Swamp Oak Creek, there is no detour around that. But so what I was wondering is that load limit per axle grouping on these shorter bridges where an entire truck will not be on the bridge at any one time? Or is it the weight of the truck? So on the longer trucks, you'll only ever have the front tyres or the back 2 axles on that bridge at any one time. So is that what the planned load limit is? If I maybe, and I'm going to know what
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, my understanding of the load limit is that it is the maximum load to be placed on the bridge at any point in time. Not just, we're not referring to maximum load, we're talking about the maximum load placed on the bridge at any point. So I'll certainly double check that so that we've got clarity out there in the public space. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Second question, Councillor.
Yes, so just to confirm, so if I had a 14-tonne truck that was longer than 6.74 metres, I could put it over, like loaded 14 tonne, because I might have 7 on the front and 7 on the back. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I believe that to be the case, but that said, what we have done with the structural engineer that I have used in the past, this particular gentleman, we have sought, how would you say, clarification of them in terms of the axle loading and the truck configuration. Well, if we've got any concerns, we've taken it back to the structural engineer and said, look, this is the truck we're talking about using the structure. This is its gross vehicle mass, this is the axle spacing, etc. How does that factor within your load limit? Is that fine or not? Is it okay to have an exemption based on the number of loads that we envisage? We've asked those sort of questions in the past and got a reasonable response.
So the second one was, in dealing with these, do you prioritise them as per the ones with the lowest load limit to try to knock them over first because they're the ones that are going to cause the most grief, or have you got another way of doing it, and when do you envisage doing the next lot of testing on the remaining bridges?
Through Mr. Mayor, in terms of prioritisation, my view is that the priority is not necessarily according to the load level itself, or the load limit. It's more a case of the use. And, you know, it's just like, you know, if you look at your Mount Lindsay Road, that's your main thoroughfare, right? You go and put a 10-tonne load in on one of those bridges and see what that does. So, you know, that has to sort of be highest priority out there. Now, we are doing, you know, we have got grant applications out there, and there's some advocacy happening in the background to sort of deal with that highest priority. But in terms of going forward, it's a case of dealing with things according to use. Sorry, Councillor, your second point was?
When will you when the remaining timber bridges will be tested, because I was a bit concerned that some of the bridges selected appear to be in better condition on the same road as other bridges that haven't been tested.
Yeah, fair enough. So part of what we will be seeking to do in the next financial year is to do the same level 3 testing on most of the other bridges. There will be a grant application that goes up to secure funding for that. I'm pretty sure we've already allowed a certain amount of money in the budget. We're seeking some additional funds, I think, out of fixing country roads to help support us in that space. And that will help us inform us going forward. Now, I do grant you that, you know, yes, if you go around, you'll probably find that there are some structures right now that you'd be aware of that are probably in worse condition than some of the structures that we picked on. But like I said earlier, we've tackled this issue starting from a position of trying to go for the highest priority in terms of use and working our way downwards.
Thank you. Councillors, excuse me, questions on those to do with the report? Before I ask for to vote, councillors, I thank you, and it is a very important thing we deal with as a council. The chair of the council, this document, especially with the map on the back, was part of the information we took care of our State Roads Minister. It was out of respect that we had that meeting, and to make the government aware that we're going to face some issues, because as council does this with respect, as we should, it's a safety issue. The first people, their residents, will be contacted apart from the council, the state and federal members. So we need to make them aware that we're going to face some issues into the future, and hopefully we can restore some funding. All in favour to receive the note to report, councillors? Against? Carried. Councillors, move on to page 30 in your hard copy to item PNV 918, 2 of the Jennings series system scheme, preliminary assessment report. I move the second to deal with this item. Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. Second by Councillor Greg Sawyer, thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Andre to present the report.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. Councillor, some time ago, there was recognition of the need to just review what services we're providing to some of our our smaller communities. And certainly, you know, in terms of Jennings, we the investigation of sewage scheme was on the drawing board. It has been for some time. When I came to council, this was one of those items that was inherited, and it's been around for a while. It's my understanding that we've been through a process of engaging a third party, H2O, to do an assessment. Basically, they've gone through the process, and I suppose the long and the short of it is that to have your own system, right, is not necessarily cost effective. And dare I say, this will be the case going forward in the future, that just continuing to use the available facilities out there, and using some collaboration, cross-collaboration with your neighbouring councils like there's currently happening. So this is the status of where things are at. I'll just commend the report to you.
Questions on that, councillors, to do the report? No, sorry, councillor, yes?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
When I first came to council, that was one of the big issues that following Jennings was the health issue with overflowing septic systems. And I think it still is going. So I think it's very good that we've got this far.
And I fully support your council, and thank you for your comments, because it has been ongoing, and we're interested with the implications with the report back into the 80s, but since the community didn't want to go on services, that's why it was never followed up. Now there's a big change out there, they do. So, Councillor Bromley.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question to Andre, thank you. Just regarding costing, on page 18 of the addendum, it says total capital cost is $3,081,000. I presume the 2.27 million, that is that council would be required to basically subsidise that for the Jennings residents if they were to pay for the lot themselves. But in addition, the total annual cost of $286,934, is that right there that council would then be required to be contributing $201,000 every year if this was to go ahead as an annual cost, to reduce it to $952 rather than the $3,188 that would be without council subsidy?
Mr Mayor, Councillor, I just have to go and just check the calculations on that to just see what your summation is, if that's correct. What I looked at primarily when I reviewed the report was more the capital costs going forward, and just what that would mean in terms of comparison with what you've already got. So, look, I'll have to go back and have another quick look at that for an answer.
Councillor, just for him to see, just for comment, please, before we go back. Yep.
I read somewhere in that report that was the ongoing operational cost, because it was construed by the report all for the residents wouldn't have the capacity to pay the $3,200. So council would be subsidising basically $4,000 a week for the residents to only pay $952 a year versus the $3,200.
Yeah, the query I had was that, like, it's there in that table that the annual cost of connection is $3,188, and the capital assistance to match Tennefield Road of $950 is therefore that, $2,000 and a bit per year. But on top of that, then when you come down to the fourth paragraph below it, it says capital cost assistance of $2.27 million is required to reduce the Jennings annual cost to the same level as Tennefield Town. But that's not right, because the capital cost of putting it in is the $3 million, and the annual cost is a different thing. So that paragraph in there is what's raised my query. I think it's fairly obvious that if it was to go ahead, there would be a required subsidy of over $2,200 a year per each of the 90
per household.
households,
Yep.
in addition to an initial subsidy of $2.27 million to put it in the first place. But I think the query was because that paragraph on page 18, which is kind of join the two together, and it's probably
Through Mr Mayor, the capital cost is high and the number of residents is low, so there would be a huge capital injection required. And the operational cost is high and the income is low every year, which means there'd be an operational cost. So you'd have to read them both congruently to understand it.
Councillor Berry, yes?
Mr Mayor, that brings me back to one of my original suggestions, was it be cheaper to shift a couple of houses? Seriously, in that low-lying area there, it'd be cheaper for us to shift a couple of houses and everybody had this own septic system.
Anyway, but to be supportive of the CE and the staff, that it was in our budget for some time and the report has been done. It is something that gives a bit of weight into our conversations and meetings we have with Southern Downs, whether it be into the future to share with their sewage treatment plant, whether it's got capacity to do it, all those questions. Or to source funding from the government or joint funding between our two councils. But anyway, the report's there. Councillors, if there's no more questions, the report said to receive a note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, moving to page 33. It's ENV 8/18. It's Joint Regional Planning Panels Review of panel members. I'll move to second to deal with this one, please. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Bromley-Petrie, thank you. And I'll hand over to our senior planner. No, look, I'm reading.
It's a new.
I'll hand over to you, Guy.
The senior planner did prepare this report,
Right.
so as I said, and she's given me a full briefing. We have had discussions. I'm not suggesting that I do have any detailed technical understanding.
sure that
so
you will
we
handle it, Guy.
will gather that should we need to. So the purpose of this report, council was lucky enough to have Mr Stuart Wigginton come and present to the previous briefing session to have a discussion on the changes that have been brought in from the 1st of March with relationship to the joint regional planning panels, of course originally established on the 1 July 2009. So the officer's recommendation there is actually to seek expressions of interest from current councillors and or community members in accordance with the selection criteria set down within the operational procedures that have been included in your agenda. We previously had staff representation on that particular committee, and that's not our recommendation at this point in time, particularly with those changes. The second part of the request there is that we actually advise the panel secretary that the council has the facilities to make audio recordings of those meetings as is required by those procedures, so that we can conduct the video should one come along that we need to make an assessment.
Just a question before I go to you, Councillor Brom. With one, Kyle, we seek special measures from current council or community members. Is this something that would have to be advertised?
You could choose to advertise it, or you could actually choose to seek a group of 2 or 3 technical experts who you thought fitted the criteria. So
Under the heading of community members.
that's correct, so that fitted the criteria of the procedures, and so that's one of the challenges as well, and also why we haven't recommended any staff representation, because of the criteria that also involved in the assessment determination. The other thing to remember too is that given the dollar threshold, it's quite likely that they may actually be council developments which the JRPP is assessing. So therefore we would go and have councillors sitting on that panel. We would need to nominate somebody who's independent from that.
Thank you. Councillor Brom.
Given in the background it says current membership includes the mayor and chief executive, with the deputy mayor, chief corporate office as alternate. So what you're suggesting is you could, for instance, be the mayor and deputy mayor and remove the staff. Is that what you're saying? Remove the executive, chief executive and the chief corporate officer.
That is correct, and based on the so yes, that is correct, because once again both the chief executive and myself would be considered to have a conflict of interest, given the fact that it would be most likely a development council that would trigger that 20 million threshold in the procedures.
Councillor, sorry, with the conversation I had with you, that with the formation of this council now, that you were nominated as a delegate for this, yes?
Yes, Mr Mayor, that's correct. In the background there, it says the current membership is the Mayor, Chief Executive, Deputy Mayor and Chief Corporate Officer. Under that guise, I was appointed to that committee. The pitfall in having that appointment structure is, of course, the Deputy Mayor's role is up for grabs every 12 months. we might appoint someone today.
Yeah.
In September, that changes.
Yeah.
James Rubright was put on there at the same time as I was, and he left a couple of months later.
Yeah.
So I think by tying yourself into those particular titles means that we're constantly reviewing the composition of our representation. I think the representation on this particular committee should fall in line with our annual allocation of committees, so that we're not constantly having to adjust.
Well, it's generally for council, I mean, if that was done at the formation of this council, and you were there, I mean, you're happy to stay on it.
Yeah.
Well, no, not the rest of the meeting, that's just a suggestion, councillor Bond.
Considering we can have two, I think the mayor should be one of them.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
I'm happy to move it as the mayor and Rev, or the mayor and, or and then deputy mayor rolls over with whoever's appointment or whatever, but I think the mayor should be there, certainly.
And having attended them before, not to pass as anything clear, it was the general manager of the day and myself, along with the staff, which you referred to. So it wasn't, we've only had to make twice, but anyway, it's all good. But anyway, the recommendations there, councillor, we're seeking expressions of interest to do with left current council or community members in accordance with the criteria set down by the planning panel authority. So we can do that as a, would that be appropriate to do that as a motion now, or? Yep, councillor?
Well, could I recommend that it's the mayor and, because he's already there, with the deputy mayor as the alternate, should either of those not be able to attend?
I'm sorry, councillor, just your last bit, I didn't get it. Repeat the whole thing.
Yeah, that the current members, that I'm nominating that the mayor, as in yourself, and Greg, who's already on the committee, be our two nominees.
Yes.
With the deputy mayor of the day, which is Don, being the alternate, should either you or Greg not be able to attend.
Okay. Mr. Seeley?
Through Mr. Mayor, that certainly would solve it, because if it's not resolved today, it's still in abeyance,
And as we do, councillors, make a decision, let's get on with it, it's not a big issue. So councillor Bromwich, I'm sorry, councillor Berry, we're dealing with the, so Joe, you're indicating you're going to move that way, councillor? Okay, so make it through, yep. Councillor Berry.
So councillor Petrie is nominating the position of deputy mayor rather than the person who's gone forward.
Yeah.
Just want to
Sorry.
confirm that.
No, fair question.
Just a quick one, but I thought these were, you know, the top, the positions that were being members, not actually the individual. For instance, the mayor of the day is the member.
Yes.
The deputy mayor.
Yes,
the
of
position,
the day.
it's the position that is the member, not, you know, not necessarily, so
Yes.
the individual is that occupies it.
Yep.
So it's actually the position. That's
Yep.
what I thought.
But I think, with respect, councillor Forbes, I think that what councillor Bromwich is indicating there clarifies that, no? I think it does.
Notwithstanding what Brendan said about how the mayor and the deputy can change. Well, surely our nominations can reflect that. It's only, we might do even people know that those positions may change. But for continuity, because Greg is already on the committee, that we go to the mayor and councillor Sawyer,
And that's what's
the
indicating that
alternative being the deputy, or whichever of the other two may not be able to attend.
And that's what, to do with the or number 3, that's what it's indicating. Correct me if I'm wrong. Council got position of mayor and deputy mayor, no, it's positions. And council, sorry.
No.
No?
Mayor and councillor Sawyer.
Yeah. I'll come in a minute, council. Yep.
With the deputy mayor
As the
Alternate.
alternative.
as the alternate.
Yep. Councillor Sawyer.
I'd, with Bronwyn's approval, just tweak that fractionally and go back to what Nolene had, adopt the position of mayor and deputy mayor as in the background there, but for the continuity, as I'm already on there. And I'm registered, because there is a process to be registered.
I'm aware of that, councillor.
And because we nominate them as mayor and deputy mayor, doesn't necessarily mean you get accepted, because if you don't pass a test, online test, they don't accept you as a member of the panel. So with Bronwyn's permission, we move back and say, council adopt the position of mayor and deputy mayor, with myself as a nominated delegate because I'm already on there.
Yes.
That solves the problem of having to get someone else
Yep.
registered, but
Yep.
the two existing positions should stay at that rate.
Councillor Ron Petrie, you happy with that? Okay. I have this amendment, so I am asking for a second to deal with number 3. Been moved by Councillor Ron Petrie, Councillor Berry, yep. Councillor Petrie, amendment, do you want to speak to it? Councillor Berry, been the second?
No.
Put the, okay, it's number 3. We'll put the amendment. Number 3, all in favour? Against? Okay. Now the count officer's recommendations there, councillors, all in favour? Against? Okay, thank you. Very good. Page 38 in your hard copy, councillors. Item E and B 10/18. Murray Darling Association membership. I'm moving a second to deal with this one, please. Councillor Forbes, I thank you. Second by Councillor Murray, I thank you. And I'll hand over to our CEO, Mr Terry Dawes, to present this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The officer's recommendation was different. It originally said to either confirm or either support or not support joining the Murray Darling Association, but I had advice that technically it had to be one or the other, and then it went to council for consideration. So it's completely up to council whether they think there's value to be had with joining the Murray Darling Association, and I'll put it over to you.
Questions? Comment, Councillor Bromley.
I am actually speaking against the recommendation not to rejoin. The Bruin thing has fallen over, so I think it's important that we are back at the table with the Murray Darling Association for 2 reasons. One is that, as Councillor Peters will tell you, that it's heavily dominated by irrigators in the south, etc. And not only that, but even our irrigators to the west of here often see the Tablelands water as theirs, because they said they've paid for it in their licences, whereas we say we've paid for it because of the value of the land when we purchased the land because of the high rainfall. So I think so that the association does give recommendations to government. So we're not at the table ensuring that there is a voice for the upland water and upland water users. The government will never hear of our concerns until it's too late. And so I think it is vital that we do go back there. And the other thing is too, we've also supported motions of moving Eastern Water out west, so it's even more reason to be part of it. So it's not a very high cost. It's only $1,800 plus whatever the attending the meetings is. So I would actually recommend that we do. Because as a farmer in New South Wales farmers, like you hear it all the time, different comments and meetings I've been to around the state. And the issue about use in Murray Darling at the moment, or inappropriate use, I think it's absolutely fine. We're there, or we trial for 12 months, such as this.
Councillors, I'm taking, or Councillor, excuse me, Robin Petrie's indicated she's speaking against officer's recommendation. Is there any other speakers against the recommendation? Councillor Forbes, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, it's 3 years.
Microphone, Councillor, please. Yeah.
Well, I've always been in favour that we should be rejoining it simply because it's a case of having a voice in the tent on their side. What Councillor Petrie did allude to, I certainly endorse that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Speak. I'm sorry, Councillor. Well, I'll come in a minute, because with the amendment, you're just changing the words as far as not seek to rejoin to join. Okay. Okay. Well, we deal with the recommendation. Is the speaker supporting the recommendation? Okay, we'll go to the amendment, Councillor.
My amendment would be that council rejoins the Murray Darling Association.
Yep. Second, please. Councillor Forbes. Councillor Brumman, being an amendment, do you want to speak to the amendment? Councillor Forbes, the second. Do you want to speak to the amendment?
No.
Okay. Okay, councillors. The amendment's there that council rejoins the Murray Darling Association. Simple as that, Councillor Brumman. All in favour? Against? Carried. That now becomes the recommendation. Do I need to vote on that again? No. You do. Okay. The amendment now becomes a recommendation. All in favour of the recommendation? Against? We lost this. Okay, page 42, monthly operation report, council, COB 38/18. Can I move to second to deal with this one, please? Councillor Forbes, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Berry, thank you. Hand over to our CD, Mr. Terry Dawes, to present this report.
Through you, Mr Mayor, unless there's any questions, the report's pretty self-explanatory.
Question to our CD or staff to do with the operational report? No question? Councillor, you indicate yes?
Just an observation
Yes.
rather than a question. The CEO's been seeking getting up to a benchmark level. I think in his own mind he'd be very happy with the report, as I'm sure I am.
Fair comment, Councillor. Councillor Bromley?
Thank you. A question regarding parks and open space.
Yeah.
And yes, thanks to all the staff for their contributions.
Noted, Councillor.
On page 93 and 95, like on page 95 it says that there's still 155,000 in the budget that hasn't been used. But on page 93 it talks about Mount Mackenzie Tower construct access road budget constraints. I'm just wondering what has to be done on Mount Mackenzie Tower access road and the monies that are still in the kitty for parks and gardens, are they envisaged to be used by the 30th of June with works in progress or?
So, Councillor, just for clarity for our meeting, so the pages we're referring to in this report?
Yes,
And then-
93,
Yeah.
95.
Okay, thank you. Are all councillors aware?
So on 95, it's
Yep.
got the annual budget, year-to-date actuals and the balance outstanding. So it's
Yep.
155,064 still in the kitty.
Yep.
And there's, on the page before 93,
Yeah.
it's got, third from the bottom, Mount Mackenzie Tower construct access road. I'm just wondering what that access road is and what the, it says
Budget
it's
constraints.
budget constraints are holding it up. And I'm just wondering, is the 155,000 earmarked to be used in the next 2 months? And therefore, there are those budget constraints.
So, Carl, thank you.
So, thank you very much for the question, Councillor. So my understanding that's been removed, we have got an item in the budget in 4 years' time for the Mount Mackenzie Road to the town, so that's sort of a case of trying to make sure that we've got the project scope correct. So my understanding is that will come out. Of most importance, and we'll look further at the capital expenditure report, which explains more of that in a couple of other sections. But the 155 is expected to be reduced. We've got $69,000 left in our operating budget, and this relates purely to those capital works, so those particular movements where you're referring to the 155,000 that still remain. So that's what we've been adjusting in this quarterly budget review to try and get us to that result for our new financial statements that we keep seeing.
Yeah, of course.
On page 61.
Councillor, before you go, is that answered?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
On page 61, which is environmental management, there's 2 items there. One is which is landholders engaged to control weeds on their land. That's the first column on the right, and the bottom one is council to action complaints in relation to rabbits. I was just wondering what's happening with rabbit control. We should still see them about all the time. And the other thing is, have notices been issued to landowners whose places are heavily infested with blackberries, etc.?
So through Mr Mayor, the rabbits I will have to trace up on. Well, not necessarily. Apparently there's a wall in China that keeps them out.
That's exactly right. And there's none in Queensland, I can
That's
tell you.
right, that's correct. Big sign.
That's it.
Don't go past it. But in terms of the weeds, we have followed up on that recently, and that is our next course of action. But no, at this point in time, due to time constraints, staff have been actually out there spraying. We've also got other agencies to chase up as well with relation to some of the issues out on the highway as well. So expect the staff is next on the list.
The questions, councillors, to do with this report? No? All happy to receive a no? Against? Carried. Councillors, just quickly, not for all staff, but happy to continue about 12:30 or how much? Yeah? Unanimous? Right. Good. Don't read it on. Right, at page 43 in your hard copy, councillors, is your item GOV 39/18, to do with borrowing policy, new policy, and a welcome Paul Della. As always, welcome Paul. You went out there getting prepared to run on and easy chairs, mate. We'll throw you the ball. So can I have a move in a second, please, to deal with this item? Councillor Berry, thank you. Second by Councillor Sawyer, and I'm happy to hand over to Minister of Finance and Technology, Paul Della. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor and councillors. Yes, this is a new policy, borrowing policy. Do you have any questions on it? Basically, best practice dictates that we have such a policy in council for borrowings. Interestingly, borrowings can't be delegated to staff. Borrowings are an issue of the council. So it's important that you're aware of any loans that are undertaken, the details of those loans. So that's an important thing. We have to include borrowing funds in our operating plan. We have to advise the Office of Local Government of any planned borrowings as well, and so on. So it's really just encapsulating in one document all of the legal requirements around borrowings.
Thank you, Paul. Councillors, questions to Paul to do with the report? No? Council, the report's there, all happy to adopt? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Bear with me. We move on to page 51 in your hard copy, councillors, correct me if I'm wrong. It's item GOV 40/18, to do with the corporate credit card policy, policy number 1.034. Move to the second on there, please. To deal with that, Councillor Ryan Murray, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to the Manager of Finance and Technology, Mr. Paul Della.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. It's just a revision of this policy, and basically it's setting an overall facility limit of $50,000. It's tied in with the previous policy, the borrowing policy, because credit card is a form of credit, it's a form of borrowing. So it's really about setting an overall threshold for that borrowing. And it's also suggesting that we reduce the facility limit on any one card from $10,000 to $5,000, and that provides some further clarity as to what cards can and can't be used for. And for example, suggesting that if we have a creditor on file, we should be placing orders and going through that process rather than using the credit card. This keeps better track of expenditure. When we pay for things on credit cards, the payment doesn't actually go against the individual creditor file. So it's really easy to keep track of things if we do things through orders. But credit cards have a place, and they're useful for items which, perhaps, accommodation and things like that, which can't be easily done by this ordering process. So they do have a place, but it's just making clear that there's no problem and using the
Thank you, Paul. Councillors, questions to Paul to do with the recommendation. Councillor Berry.
Paul, at the bottom of internal control and reconciliation procedures, it says that the mayor shall certify expenditure incurred by the chief executive officer, and the chief executive officer shall certify expenditure incurred by the mayor. It's going back to the previous life on another organisation. I think we should change that, or change at least one of them, to have the finance manager certify it rather than you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. I know there's no problem here, but I've got a crystal ball looking at the future.
Can I, and I don't mean anything by this, Councillor, it's a fair question, it's a fair question. I wonder, is it because that's how it is, because as the mayor and any mayor, that you are the supervisor of the CEO, but that's not the answer, but yeah, no question. And the CEO, some comments, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the rationale behind it is that the Manager of Finance and Technology reports to the Chief Corporate Officer, who reports to me. Everyone under myself, everyone that works for council as the administrative arm works for me. Putting that responsibility on someone below the Chief Executive Officer to approve my expenses is a little bit unfair on those people. And it's also a little bit unfair on them to approve the expenses of the mayor for a similar reason. Under the Act and also under the ICAC provisions and under our internal auditors, there is a list as long as your arm of checks and balances. And the other thing is there's also a list of examples, which is one of the reasons why the internal audit committee has been tightened up, of people abusing the system. They do it regularly enough that anyone with half a brain makes that and thinks, geez, I better make sure that I'm pretty tight with that, because, you know, in the last week there's been four, two mayors and two ex-CEOs in Queensland. Four mayors and two ex-CEOs in Queensland that are all facing the Crime and Corruption Commission up there. And if half of what you read is correct, they're all in big trouble. So look, I can see your point of view, and it's got merit, but it does put a lot of pressure on the staff, because the mayor's the mayor, and the CEO is the CEO, and in all councils the CEO is their boss. So I can see, and it's definitely a valid question, but I can also see that it's problematic in another way.
Councillor quite entitled to do something there for this, but I hope to see he's explained that well enough to answer your question. And fair question, yeah.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure there's no, I know there's no checks and balances. It's just with another organisation I was with. It wasn't one of those ones Jerry was talking about. It was another one altogether, but still, yes, those people do face, well, did face quite a substantial penalties, I dare say, especially with the
And through Mr. Mayor, my credit card limit's 5,000, and the last time I bought a motorbike for about 17, so I think I stand out.
Once again, I suppose just to follow on, we do have an audit process, and that's part of the removal is that whoever signs off on the expenditure has an understanding that that expenditure was incurred for a proper purpose, which gives the person who reviews it, which is myself, you know, in terms of the audit trail, some comfort that there was an understanding that so-and-so was somewhere on such and such a day or such and such was required. So you'll see that all the way through the organisation as well, that the authorising officer is usually the supervisor for that particular reason, so that person can make a judgment on whether or not that expenditure incurred was valid at the time.
Other questions? Councillor Bromley?
Can I suggest that your credit cards are tied to like Qantas or something, so you can be frequent flyer things to reduce our travel costs?
It's probably left, and the other thing is, I'm not sure, but in the back of my mind I can remember something being linked to FBT in relation to
that. Thou shalt not enter into anywhere where a benefit can be derived to an individual for using or purchasing anything. So you won't find an awards linkage to our credit cards, just to
Okay. Councillors, any more questions to Paul to deal with this report? No? The report's out, councillors, all happy to approve? In favour? Councillor Carey, thank you. Councillors, moving to page 58. 58 to do with the business paper in your hard copy. It's item GAB 41/18, investment policy. Policy number 1.091. Come and move to second here, please. Councillor Berry, I thank you. Second, please. Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Paul.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The New South Wales Treasury Corporation issued some guidelines around investment policies, which are used in formulating this policy. The aim is to ensure that we invest our social funds prudently and get the best interest rates possible. And in essence, the main change are the changes to the credit and maturity limits, which gives council greater flexibility to attract higher interest rates while at the same time limits our exposure to financial institutions with lower credit ratings. And you can see on page 66 of the document you have, we set the overall portfolio limits, and it says that we can invest up to 100% of our funds with AAA to AA minus ratings and so on. And this the different maximums that we can invest in. There's a counterparty credit framework which limits our exposure to any one organisation. I guess the thing to note there, I've suggested that we set a 45% maximum direct investment with any one organisation that's AAA to AA minus rating. And interestingly, given our current level of investments, currently we have about 46.09% of our investments with the NAB, so that would mean we have to reduce that a little bit to fall within that threshold.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to note. And then there's obviously the term to maturity nuance as well, saying how much we can invest less than 1 year and greater than 1 year to less than 5 years and so on. So all in all, I think it's quite a reasonable policy, but I have any questions.
Questions to Paul to deal with this report, councillors? No? The report's the officers' recommendations there, councillors, all happy to adopt. All in favour? Yes? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we move on to page 69 in your hard copy. It's item GOV 42/18. Related party disclosure policies, policy number 1.189. Got a move in a second here, please. Councillor Dawn Forbes, thank you. Second, please. Second, Councillor Petrie. Thank you. And once again, I hand over to the Manager of Finance and Technology, Mr. Bordell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report just seeks to make some changes to the related party disclosure policy. The existing policy, in discussion with our finance consultant and from my own experience in terms of related party policy, it's too broad in terms of the scope. The key management personnel are really meant to be the senior personnel of the council who can influence, have influence over the whole council decision making. And so it's reducing the number of key management personnel between the councillors and the senior staff being the chiefs and myself. Given that I'm a key management personnel person, it also gives the chief corporate officer the scope to delegate to another staff member to look into my related party disclosures if I have any, to make sure there's appropriate separation of duties and so on. So it's some of the minor adjustments to the terminology in the report and so on. Yes, really it's about making it more streamlined.
Questions to Paul, councillors? No questions? Reports there, the officer's recommendations there. All in favour to adopt? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor, moving to page 71 in your hard copies. Item GOV 43/18. Finance and accounts. Got a move in a second here to deal with this one first. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second place, Councillor Murray, and I thank you. Once again, I'll hand over to the Manager of Finance and Technology, Mr. Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can see from the report the balance of the accounts as at the 30th of April, 2.226 million in the general fund, around 21,000 in the trust fund. There's a summary of investments that are attached there. As I mentioned, with the new investment policy, there are some changes required to be made there in the future. I just take any questions.
Questions to Paul to do with this report, councillors? Reports there, councillors. All in favour to receive the vote? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, moving to page 74 in your hard copies, item GOV 44/18, capital expenditure report, as at the 30th of April 2018. Moving the second here, please, to deal with this. Councillor Robert Petrie, thank you. Second by Councillor Gary Berry, and I thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Cordell, Manager of Finance and Technology.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With this report, it sets out the progress of each project against the forecast expenditure. Projects that won't commence in 27-18 have been removed. In some instances, these funds will need to be replaced next year. The first quarterly budget review, the project is still being undertaken. And in instances where projects are grant funded, the funds will be carried forward as a restricted fund. And projects will be carried out for 2018 and 19. The list is there. Have some questions?
Councillor Braun, thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. For you, Paul, on page 77, under the program Theatre and Museum Complex, the repairs, etc., to the School of Arts, it says they're on time, but nothing has actually been spent as yet. Is that envisaged that work will be done, was commenced by June? I understand there's an issue with, big issue with the windows leaking, etc.
Through you, Mr Mayor, my understanding from the discussions is that work will take place, will commence, or orders will be placed before the 30th of June. But happy to hear from one of the tutors.
I'll weigh in. So my
That's what the team's all about, Colin.
So my understanding at this point in time is we have actually engaged the heritage architect, and I'm just not sure where the orders are or why that funding hasn't been committed. So the process has been undertaken, the investigation has commenced, so I've had people on site, so I'll chase that up just to make sure that it hasn't gone astray. But as I said, I know that the work has commenced and it's been happening. Yeah, I'll go and double check that.
Other questions, councillor, to do with the report? Pre-approved, running our staff? No? Okay. The report said councillors to receive a note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Now, councillors, that is the end of the to do with our governance, but we move on to our amendment items. And we have no feeling to do with our quarterly budget and operational planning. It is 12:30. Do you want to break for lunch?
Yep, give us a hot lunch, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It can be very heavy, councillor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it is what Morton needs. So anyway, we'll have a motion to suspend standing orders. Please. Councillor Forbes, seconder. Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. All good. So we'll be back, what do you reckon, half an hour? One? Good. Okay, councillors. Bring the meeting back into order and someone wants to move that what do we do? Resume standing orders, I'll get it. Someone wants to move that way, Councillor Brian Murray, thank you, and second by Councillor Bob Rogan. All in favour? And councillors, thank you, as always, for sharing a wonderful lunch and good conversation and to our senior staff and see, thank you for attending, it's very important. For us as councillors that we all share a lunch and break bread, and it's a shame we couldn't share a bit of red wine, but still it is today. Anyway, councillor, just to remind you, in your hard copy, we are dealing with our loaded amendments. So, item GOV 45/18, do the quarterly budget review statement, March 2018. I'll move in a second here, please, to deal with this item. Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. Second, please. Second, Councillor Brian Murray, thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to our Manager of Finance and Technology. It's been freshly fed, so it's all fresh. Mr. Paul Dillon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This quarterly budget review is in a different format to what we've probably used to in the past. It's a far more succinct version of the quarterly budget review, but it has the same information and it meets the requirements as developed by the Office of Local Government. The major points to note are there's a reduction in the operating surplus down to 5.267 million, and the bulk of that reduction is as a result of capital grants and contributions, which for one reason or another we don't expect to receive this financial year. So the effect of that is obviously a reduction in our operating income and a reduction in our capital expenditure expectations for this year. But most of the other adjustments in there, a lot of them anyway, are just the change between sections within the organisation as part of the restructuring of how we report the services internally. But yes, the major one in the transport area, renewable and special grant projects and development of funding, that's probably one of the major reductions there. But all in all, still in a good position. And happy to take any questions.
Councillors, the report's there in front of you. Any questions to Paul to do with the report, councillors? No? Okay. Adopt his recommendation, said councillors, all in favour to adopt? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, move on to page 19 in your addendum, in the hard copy to do with the addendums. It's item TOB 46/18. It's operational plan 218 to 19. And can I move in a second here, please, to deal with this report? Councillor Brian Petrie, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Bob Rogan, thank you. And I'll hand over to the Manager of Customer Services, Governance and Records. Erica, welcome as always. And present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The report presenting the operational plan for Tenterfield Council for 2018-19 is provided for you as the recommendation details. We have included those submission changes that were discussed at Council's workshop last Thursday, the 17th of May. We have also included in the recommendation that Council adopts as part of the operational plan the Council budget for 2018-19, the revenue policy statement for 2018-19, and the fees and charges for 2018-19. And the remainder of the statement, in fact, goes to each relevant section of the Local Government Act to apply ratings as well as other fees and charges for services. If there are any questions, I'll take them.
Thank you, Erica. And councillors, if you wish to questions to three of our CEO, because he is the boss of our staff, to our relevant staff, you need to question. Councillor Brown.
Just with the rating structure, was there there was a slight increase CPI thing, wasn't there? Is it within the base rate or is it within the cents per dollar?
So through Mr. Mayor, the implication of the rate peg will move both, and then we calculate that back across to get the yield required to keep us within the end of the amount or the percentage that we're currently deriving of each individual class. So we started at the right-hand side, and we've actually tried to generate the same yield with that 2.5 spread in exactly the same way as it is or has been previously to maintain our rating structure.
So, supplementary question.
Therefore,
could we just be given at some stage just a little note to say that as a result of the PEG, just what the increase means in the various things, what the difference is compared to before, such as the base rate in farmland or residential tenant order has gone up so many dollars and the other part has gone up X amount, just so we know what people are asking us.
We can certainly do that, but remembering, of course, that the 2.5% is on the total yield, and then that is applied back on those percentages themselves. So, but yeah, so we can certainly try and translate that into a dollar amount if that is not something possible.
Councillor Sawyer.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. In relation to part 14 of the recommendation, I think the fact that the wording says borrows up to an amount of $830 for the sale yards truck wash, I know we're dealing with that in a separate matter. The fact that the wording is borrows up to, we can approve this particular recommendation and do other with the recommendation further in the thing without compromising this whole recommendation, because it says up to.
So councillor, you're indicating you wish for those words to be put in there?
No, they're already there, but just making sure before we
Yeah.
accept this recommendation, which would stop us from doing anything with the truck wash situation in its own.
Yep.
So the wording there says borrows up to 830, so if we borrow zero up to 830, we're not in compromising of that recommendation.
No fair point. Councillors, questions? I'll go to councillor Berry first. Councillor Berry.
One more question. This stemmed from Mingula Progress Association, payment of $70 or more for compliance certificate inspections done outside the 20 radius. Did we alter that at all?
If I can, sorry, Bob, if I can pop in and then full credit, that's what our workshops for. I think it was clearly stated in our workshop, correct me if I'm wrong, why that was there. So I'll just say that. You did
Yeah, it was there. But I just thought we were going to alter it a little bit or something, tweak it a bit.
But I thought it was explained as why it was there, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So there was quite a bit of discussion around that, and what we had was whichever way, to my recollection, which may be incorrect, is whichever way we moved the goalpost, we still weren't sort of satisfied with what that shift would mean.
So does that answer your question, councillor Berry?
Yeah, I just thought we were going to tweak it, but I couldn't find it, so.
But I thought in the way that if I can hop in, that it was explained as well, so but
I
anyway.
don't know what's there.
Yeah. But anyway, councillor, you have a question to do with the report, councillor?
On that, well, now just to further on from what Gary just said, at one bit there, I suggested, well, maybe we should be looking at increasing the local staff and say by $20 reduce the external staff by
Yeah,
20.
I do remember
And
the
then there's
conversation.
also talk about altering the distance and all sorts of things.
Yep.
But it's still remained here. My other thing was what Greg had said, where it says borrowed, it actually says borrowed up to $2 million for the reinforcement of the Tenfield water supply dam and 830. So really to be sure, we would have to insert the words and up to 830.
One question there, we'll go there. So yeah, for some comment, please.
My recollection of the workshop was that Councillor Berry and Councillor Bowen each are actually correct. But what we're going to do was leave it as it was for now so that we didn't, in an attempt to do the right thing, before we actually dug into the devil in the details, make a mistake, such that we'd have time to properly look at the fees and charges related to, in particular, the building surveying part of it, because the more we discussed it on the day of the workshop, the more complex we saw it becoming. And we thought, well, hang on a minute, we've advertised this, we've had one public submission, yes, let's review it, but let's review it holistically and properly so that we don't end up fixing up one thing on one side of the fence, but then affecting something. And we're also going to look at the number of the quantum in outlying areas versus the quantum in the more urban areas as well as part of that.
Councillor Roman, just to go back to your comment to with number 14. So are you alluding to, and that's what I tried to, Councillor Sawyer, with respect, that's what I thought you were meaning there. So you're indicating that we should put that wording up to in front of the 830.
Because the way it reads, you could interpret as borrowing up to $2 million for the dam, full stop, and 830 rather than and up to. So I like seeing.
And I did have this as a conversation interrupting Paul's fine day yesterday, actually, same question. So to do, with reference, Mr. Sawyer, that would be an amendment to 14?
Look, council could include it as an amendment, or if council wished to, because there's no argument for, and it doesn't actually change what the intent of the report was, to add the words for clarity. I don't really think it needs to be an amendment.
Okay, so we'll do that. We're all in favour to do that in front of the 830s up to? Okay, good. Councillor Bob, did you indicate? No? No. Okay. Okay, councillors, any more questions to do with this report? No? Okay. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, that's the end of our reports to do with the open council reports. We move on to our reports from delegates and committees. Page 80 in your hard copy. Item RC 11/18, reports from the Memorial School of Arts Joint Committee. Thank you, Erica. And can I move in a second? Oh, I'm sorry, I chair this, so I'll move to this report. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Sawyer. Any questions, councillors? Comment? All happy to receive and note? All in favour? Against? Carried. Page 84, councillors. RC 12/18. Reports from the local traffic committee meeting. I chair that also, so I'm happy to move that along those lines. Can I have a second on there, please? Councillor Verrier, thank you. Questions, councillors? To do the report? Councillor Donovan.
The rock at the industrial estate, is it going to be moved?
I didn't hear you start. Please repeat yourself.
The big rock that's on the corner blocking you on page 97, it was raised 18 months ago, that was an issue, but I see it's now come up to the traffic committee, the removal of the rock on the western boundary road, where council's been requested to remove the rock, and you commented that it should be removed because it is a key issue. I'm just wondering what action is
It's a
being
safety,
taken.
it's a safety issue. Councillor, just to remind, where is it in the report?
Page 97.
Oh, okay. Yep, right.
Is that-
Councillor, remove the rock, it's a vision problem with increased development and three comment contribute.
It was first brought to council 18 months ago. It was
Okay, I
an
wasn't
issue.
aware of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and nothing seems to have happened. So I was actually even, I don't know if it's right, I was told the person who's purchased that corner block was actually told he had to set his building off because of the rock.
I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Plus,
So let's
plus
remove the rock.
because you know why it's there. The rock.
Put a sign on it.
No, because that's what when they started developing it, guess what they found? There. So, I mean, nothing by that, but that's where it came from, there. Where were they, councillor, were we?
We were, Peter, that was actually moved there.
Yeah.
Well, it was noticed along with that was in that corner position there.
That's right.
You need to nudge it back again.
Anyway, the third question. Councillor, Councillor Wong.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Riley Street on page 89. It says that the council will review the situation, so I'm just wondering how far down the track they've gone with that, because Councillor Forbes and myself received the original complaint from the resident up there, so is there anything we can feed back to them at this point?
Well, and the other councillor, Councillor Vera and Councillor Peters, I think that why that it with the Protocols Committee decided to discuss it as a late item. I think we were waiting for a bit more information to do with it before we make a decision about what to do there. Councillor's investigation done with traffic counters and they're currently reviewing all permits to use of Riley Street. So it's one of those ongoing things at the moment before we make a decision, because it's to do with the island that's in there, which council put there.
Yeah.
And let's say the breaking of the laws because trucks are actually coming through there, so it is an issue with those residents there. Yeah, of course. This is Mr. Terry.
Through the complaint I received, and I can't remember where it was from, but
From Gary,
There's a couple along there.
yeah, was it not? It wasn't so much the trucks; it was the number of vehicles using the street, and whether or not there was a capacity to put a cul-de-sac between the white brick place, which is the last place before the chicane, and the first business, which I think is storage sheds. And if the cul-de-sac was placed there, all vehicles, including light vehicles that come up there and look, the seekers will work up there every day, would have to use the highway to come into the industrial estate.
Councillor Bronwyn.
So what would the point be? Is this because the residents in that little section don't like vehicles going past?
Yes.
So therefore, what do we do about residents who live on Rouse Street who might object to the traffic going past? I mean, is it being a bit precious?
Oh, but in fair comment, I do think to go back to the committee, go back to the original reason why it was put in a previous council. And I don't think we should shift away from that. So it was part of what you said is true, but the other part is that people are breaking the law there, using it with heavy transport.
So to continue, Yeah, that's, and you were talking about putting maybe another traffic island to help prevent the first, no?
No, the residents of this is, I think Castle Falls brought it up, I'm not sure. What about Castle Falls? And Castle Rogan. The complaint was that when, prior to the industrial estate, the people that were living there basically only had the people that were with exception of the old businesses there. They only had them and half the number of cars that are using the street today. And every time there's an increase in the business activities at the industrial estate, the number of people using that road goes up. And their question was, is that fair? And is there an alternative traffic arrangement? So the question that I asked of the Chief Operating Officer was to investigate and define what's going on before coming back to council.
One more, councillor?
Well, some of those houses have been built since the industrial estate.
Yeah.
So some have been there, some of those businesses have been there for a considerable amount of time. And there is another alternative we could look at, which is also another complaint, which is the gravel road up past McLean's, which if that was bitumen, then a lot of people could go that way, where there's less houses, to access the industrial estate.
But if I can go back to with respect to this committee, as respect to all subcommittees, let's call it is something that is ongoing, and James was to do more investigation into it, to come up with what he would recommend that we do. Whether we do or not is another thing, but it's one of those wait and suck and see things. So we weren't doing anything straight away, but it is on the radar to look at the best way to go. Sorry, Andre, by all means.
Offer a bit of comment.
Yeah, of course you can.
When this came up, it was around Christmas time, I received a letter from quite a curt, smart, disrespectful letter from a member of the public, just basically having shot at council and the process of, I suppose, where they're currently at. And they reminded the council that, going back some years ago when that subdivision was put in, that the issue of traffic was raised back then, and the engineer at the time, I was thinking with Brian Turner.
Names don't mean anything, councillor.
Going back quite a time, the engineer put a report out that was suggesting that, look, maybe we can do something to mitigate the movement of traffic, slow them down. Nothing stays the same. At the end of the day, places grow, the place evolves, and to sort of think that we can sort of just have this little microcosm where nothing sort of, everything stays the same, I think is a little bit almost fanciful. But anyway, look, that's the letter that we got. So we said, look, what we'll do, we'll go and get some traffic counts done, and that was left with James to go and deal with that. And I haven't had a report back from James as yet as to what the status of that is. I understand that, yes, look, there's been some traffic increases in that space, but what Terry was talking about, possibly sort of turning into a cul-de-sac, that's all news to me. And it seems like people are sort of wanting to insulate themselves as opposed to sort of deal with the traffic. Traffic occurs everywhere, all over the place. What are we going to do? We're going to go and sort of create cul-de-sacs all over the place because could we get a bit more traffic down Moles, or any street for that matter? I'm yet to bring a report back to council, and we'll do so. But I suppose what perhaps need to be guided a little bit too, as to people's appetite for appeasing everybody, because at the end of the day, there's any number of solutions that can be put on the table, but it comes down to, what is the expectation of this group? Are we trying to appease everybody? Have we got unlimited coffers to go and, running a new access route? It's not just traffic, we've got to consider safety as well for emergency services. That's an industrial estate. You want to have two ways in and out of the place, not just restrict traffic all one way in, one way out from the New England Highway. I suspect when that gets looked at, we might find there's a bit of resistance or pushback to closing the Friday Street, because yes, you can make it difficult for traffic to move, you can make them push them around Boundary Street, but if push comes to shove, you want emergency services to
be able to get the shortest route to get into the industrial estate. And so I'd be advocating straight away, don't close Friar Street. At least, you know, emergency services should have access up there at any point in time.
Thank you, Andre, for your comments. Councillor Porter, please. Councillor Brian Murray, then I'll go to Councillor Peters.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Martin Mackenzie line marking request. I'd just like some clarification on that. It says here, contrary to requested line marking be reinstated on Martin Mackenzie Road. James advised the council staff have installed additional guideposts on corners. As understood that the raised pavement markers are not favorable. Now, to deal with the guideposts, what effectively that has done, when I came on the accident on Saturday, right on that corner, what effectively that has done, that stopped people like me taking up on the grass verge. They've now cut my right of way as it happens when someone comes around the corner. And that's what happened to the motorbikes on Saturday. He came around in his wrong side, but that's no excuse of what is going on here. And I'm asking now, I'm asking the engineer, my question is, what is happening? Are you going to do it, or am I wasting my time coming to council at this all the time? Are you going to install white lines, or are you not? Simple answer.
This issue, through you, Mr Mayor, this issue's been done to death over a long period of time.
Just before you continue here, we're talking about reinstatement of white lines. We're not talking about new white lines.
If there's been white lines there in the past, I'm happy to make sure that the lines are put back there. That's as simple as it.
Well, the white lines have been there ever since I've been around Matt Mackenzie, which is about 15 years.
It puzzles me as to why they weren't put back there.
I mean, the locals are having a bit of a joke about this and a bit of a laugh about it. They're saying that they thought it was an April Fool's Day joke by putting these signposts or these posts on the side of the road to stop people getting up on the grass to avoid the oncoming traffic. And I see it as totally incumbent, quite frankly. I don't see why we should have to go into all of this. All we want and all they're asking for up there is the white lines be reinstalled, reinstated. That's all they're asking.
If that's all you want, we will get white lines installed, but might I say, though, that this issue, like I said, it's been done to death through the traffic committee, you know, over the last 12 months. It's been around before my time, and it's appeared from the discussions in the traffic committee that there's been a multitude of different versions of what the problem is, from being able to see, see some sort of delineation in times of snow to being able to safely, move around corners to trying to provide some sort of guidance for motorcyclists that go up there that won't sort of hit those pavement markers. There's a myriad of considerations and evolutions of the issue. If all you're concerned about, Councillor, is to reinstate the white lines, happy to do so. It just seems like if you go through the history, the problem keeps changing.
I take it on board. Well, the Mayor, you would have looked at them. The GM has looked at them. Am I correct in saying this?
Councillor.
They're blind corners. I mean, and you cannot take that away from them. All they're asking for is a demarcation. That's all they're asking.
Councillor, to be supportive of Andre being the head of the engineering department, that when we have, and there's one on the calendar now, the next Roads and Traffic Committee meeting, and in chairing that, make sure, and we've battled with this, he's 100% right, it's been on the business, in our business paper for 12 bloody months. And we've gone all around, under advice has been given and everything, to put the lines back in there, and it's done. Done and dusted. But as far as the post and all that go, that's the advice we'll give. As far as putting the witches, the cat's eyes on the road, that's advice we'll give.
And with regards, you can say too, you talk about incompetence. I mean, I take that as a kick in the guts, to be quite frank, Councillor. That was discussed at the traffic committee meeting about getting some sort of guidance to motorcyclists and traffic moving around that road. And, people were saying, well, raised pavement markers are actually, it was RMS that said, you go put raised pavement markers on the road, motorcyclists hit that and they go for a screamer and then you've got public liability problems. So the notion was tossed around, well, why don't we put a few more posts around the curves to give people an indication that you are coming into a corner, right? And hell or high water, it doesn't matter what's on the road, whether you've got snow, whether you've got a new seal or whatever, if you've got a series of guideposts that are coming closer together with reflectors, you will see at night some indication that you're coming into a corner. Now that is not incompetence, that is a safe way, a safer way of giving delineation and providing some guidance to the traffic at night. So
I have to say, well, I do apologise if you take that on board as being incompetent. I don't think it was referring to you. I'm not the author of this. This is the general feeling out there. I mean, it's just so elementary, quite frankly.
It sounds that way,
It's a garbage.
Councillor, it sounds that way, and I am supportive of your argument. When we sit in the meeting and take advice about what legally we can do or what shouldn't have been there, fully support you. I was there when the 2 German beer fests ago, when the road was resealed. That's how long ago. And I argued that the white lines were there. So if they were there, they need to be reinstated. But we will get on with it. Councillor,
I'll take that as yes.
well, it will be, but then it's done. Well, in the actions, it'll be completed because it has been there for too long. Councillor Bronwyn, yes.
So just to confirm, to put the white lines back was its reinstatement, and in fact, I can't remember, it was the last council meeting, the one before, there was a notation there from the RMS fellow that said, if there were traffic delineation before, then it must be returned. So that's why I'm thinking, well, why in the hell hasn't it? Other than it's been muddy, whether it's white or yellow or whatever it is, that might be the reason. So therefore, given it is a reinstatement back to white, does that have to go back to the traffic committee or just go straight to workshop to do it?
Andre, I'll hand over you to answer that one.
straight to get on with the job.
Thanks.
I'm going with it.
Okay. Councillors, any more comment, questions to do with the road traffic committee? Yeah. Councillor Tom Peters. I apologise, Councillor, you did indicate.
Originally, there were no white lines there back in the dark ages at all, and the reason for that, one of the engineers said the road wasn't wide enough. And they didn't put white lines in the road wasn't wide enough. Oh, yeah. And the other one is Riley Street. Those chicanes were also put in by an engineer to slow the trucks going that way. Those were to put a big speed bump in the middle, the trucks wouldn't go that way anyway, to stop everybody except the cars that wanted to go to the depot or the industrial estate.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, Councillors, no more questions, nothing to do with this one. Reports there. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to we move on to a notice of motion, councillors. And it is a notice of motion by Councillor McNish. It's item MM618. Notice of motion to encourage mountain bikes to Tenterfield. Councillor McNish being the author of this notice of motion, you wish to move that way?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Second, please. Councillor Bob Rogan. Councillor McNish, you've been the mover of the notice of motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Just before we start, I'm a hard copy. The recommendation is different to what's on there. And I've been informed yesterday that the one we actually had on here was illegal. So we just had to be reworded. The intent is still the same, we just had to be reworded. Just on this topic, one of my boys is a mad mountain biker. And for years he's been saying, Dad, this is the perfect spot, Tenterfield is the perfect spot to have some of these tracks. Get the mountain there, national park, blah, blah, blah. And he said it would be incredible for the town if it indeed did have one of these. Just a bit of background, his bike is worth $14,000, his push bike, and that is not the top of the range by any means. So it's quite an expensive sport, but very, very, very popular. There are tracks at Stanthorpe I know of, and he said that that's a very good one, and also down Little Italy, he rides down there just below Woodburn. And there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and it really came to light when I decided to put this notice of motion in, and when I saw that landline report a couple of weeks ago on a little town called Derby in Tasmania, where Derby was a bit like Deepwater, I think, and then all of a sudden you can't buy a house, you can't buy land, there's buildings going up, all because of mountain bikes. There's about 7 different tracks apparently. Going from one's like with Bob Rogan, I'd probably ride on Brian Murray, very not non-difficult ones to the extreme, which is sort of going down hills like that. And on the Derby show, there was a couple of blokes, one was 69, one was 70, they were active mountain bike riders, a bit better than some of us apparently, but so it does cater for all types of people. It's apparently, according to Andrew, my son, it's the sort of people who ride these things are people who don't worry about money, so it's very, very good for local economies. I just thought it would be good for Tenterfield if we could embrace something like this. We should look at Bob and Marion's archery thing, how it's ballooned in the last 12 months. We get something, something else going. Everything we can get going for the town is good. Anything that brings a few quid in, employs a few local people, whether it's preparing meals or making beds at a motel or whatever, is beneficial to the community. So I give it the money aspect of it too. There are so many grants around, like for sport and rec type grants, and also for healthy lifestyle sort of grants. So the money is around to construct these tracks. So I just thought I'd put this motion, this notice of motion up, just see if there's any support for it, and let's hope there is. And Terry can get Harry or some other similar person in the organisation to make some inquiries.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bob Rogan, being the secretary, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, please. Some time ago, when my wife and I ran a full dog business, I actually looked into mountain biking across the country. I actually spoke to the president of the Mountain Bike Association Australia. And when I moved to Tenterfield, we're looking at perhaps looking at mountain biking as an idea to run an event. And I spoke to him along those lines, and he told me that they had teams that had come and assess areas for the suitability, and so a lot of help is out there, John, to get areas assessed. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a staff member. In fact, if there was somebody from Tenterfield Tourism, whoever that was investigating this, and they wanted some free help, I'll put my hand up and help investigate it. Mary and I also visited Tasmania not so long ago, and just to reiterate on what John said about the landline program, all that's true. When we drove into Derby, first thing, and we didn't know anything about mountain biking in this little town called Derby, and when we drove in there, you come down out of the mountains, car park on the left, massive big signage with pictures of push bikes and blokes parked there with cars hiring mountain bikes to tourists. So, but they have hundreds of kilometres of tracks that were used by sniggers, and it was a big timber industry through there. So they had the framework, and just reminded me of Drake straight away. The town of Derby is about the size of Drake, and it was dying. And like John said, they introduced mountain biking. Now there are at least 2 businesses there, and simply to supply the goods. They're even selling the riding gear and helmets and hiring bikes. The pub's thriving. The whole town has come alive again through one sport. And I reckon the same thing could be done here on the mainland in Tenterfield. Councillor McNee said there are hundreds of little places all over the country, but there's no real big centre outside of Tasmania. It's become the mountain bike mecca for the world, apparently. So we could jump on the bandwagon now. I think it's not too late. Thanks.
Councillor, out of respect, Councillor, and I commend you, I just need to ask some questions because I'm a little bit, and obviously I'll get all the advice under the sun in a minute. But when I read you the recommendation, the Chief Executive investigating and report back to Council on feasibility of constructing mountain bike tracks with mountain tracking bikes at Tenterfield, and when, if funding becomes available. And Councillor Bob, you've been the second. Please respect my questions because they're purely that job, Councillor McNish. So why, in any other way or form, it's usually an organisation comes to council, and I'll use a reference, Councillor Bob Rogan, with your archery club. You've got an organisation, like to organise a committee of people. So you'll come and ask for help, guidance, whichever, land. But that's what concerns me here. And I'm not against this at all, councillor. I just feel it's, why is council, sounds very negative, why do we, and is it going to be on council land? There are a couple of questions, but if an organisation comes, I'm behind it 100% because someone's out there wanting to do this, and all they need is a bit of guidance, a bit of land available, and council should, any council, could help them in any way or form they can. So I'm just asking for a bit of clarity there, the way it's been presented, that's all.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Not negative at all,
No,
just purely question.
I'm glad you asked the question.
Yep.
It's a highly specialised field. Like, I can't go out there now and just say, I'll build a track here in my paddock or something like that. You've got to know what you're doing.
Yep.
And that's why I spoke to Terry about it, to get an officer to actually get in touch with someone to investigate. It's like Bob and Mary, they're experts in their archery.
Yep.
And to be fair to Bob, archery and constructing mountain bike tracks are a little bit different.
Yeah, you can do it every, isn't it?
Totally agree.
Totally role is just to make a few phone calls. Bob's already offered to liaise with him or he or her, whoever does it, and to just possibly start the ball rolling.
Yep.
Most of them are not on private land.
Right.
They're in national parks or conservation areas or something like that.
I thank you, but that's just my concern. The swell was there in the community from a group who had, were battling on and wanted some help. I fully understand. Anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it just concerns me a bit the way that's presented.
I certainly won't be buying a push bike and going on it myself, but it's not a vested interest. You've got to be watching them.
Oh, you mentioned from the pub. You mentioned your son and the wealth that needs to be involved. Please, the wealth's been passed on down the family. So we can attend these. Councillor Brom.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillors may not be aware, but the Tourism Office, in conjunction with National Parks and a working group including some private landowners, have already been working on this and had got to the stage 18 months ago or something, I don't know why it died, of having maps, such as this one here, Cottage Brook to Scrub Road. Not only did that, they mapped with the kilometrage, it also had a profile of the up and down of the thing, which is a really good start. And they're doing that across the Shire, so they've got a number of maps, about 8 maps I think already done. Haven't yet approached State Forest because there's actually, which is a pity because there's a lot of tracks in State Forest where it's not perpetual lease, which is why we actually need these maps to be prepared so that people aren't trespassing. But what John's referring to, so that's a great thing that we could be advertising across the Shire, where people can go with their mountain bikes. The Derby thing was a specially constructed track, partly using logging tracks, but also partly using what they call single track, which is where it's only wide enough for one, you can't have two to abreast. And there is an issue there that I worry about, which is if there's an accident, how do you get someone down to them? If it's a single track, you actually can't get a vehicle to them. However, that track at Derby cost $3.5 million, of which $2.5 million was given by the federal government under a regional economy grant, which is something we could apply for. Now, if we had suitable council land, and the main thing they want is elevation to bottom, so I don't know that we actually have any council land available for that.
Madam Mackenzie.
But the other thing is, it's got
You can put lines down both
order. Levity aside, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
The Mountain Bike Australia, they do have a lady who consults on tracks, but there's all sorts of organisations such as Dirt Tracks and Oz Trails or something who actually construct them. But they do a lot of these little wiggly little things like spaghetti, if that's what you're really after. And they have all sorts of levels of blue, red, green, etc., and signposts as to which way you go. The reason I put up a non-significant thing is that it's something that we were looking at for Timber, where we went with the heritage thing, as you can imagine, through that. So, and the other thing that Tentacle's got besides, I think in its favour, is we have so many natural features. A lot of that Derby track is very artificial. Like you have a look at it, and they've got all these rocks set up like there's like a garden wall, which is not the natural environment at all. And most of the activity in New South Wales is Sydney, Newcastle, Wollongong. Some at COPS, they had a big thing last year called earlier this year COPS. It's one at Tweed. Stanthorpe, they're actually up there in Stanthorpe with rakes creating these little single track things. They just have little working bees. And I don't know if they have a major design that they're going for, but a much smaller area than what is available around Tenterville. So I'm just a bit concerned with the motion that we couldn't construct a council unless it was on council land. But Derby has gone from that $3.5 million investment to a $31 million turnover per year, just on mountain bikes. And we've got, and the other thing is we could advertise it as people can come to the north of the Shire, and then there's another track here, there's another track there, and yeah, so.
Council, I'll take and I'll go to see you, with respect, please Terry, I'll go to see you in a minute because I'm probably through the meeting. So now I've noticed the motion to get us back on track. We've had a mover and a second to speak to it, and I probably did throw you with the question, but I did need to, because I'm a bit sitting on the middle of the fence here. Only for clarity, no, only for clarity, Councillor, you gave me that, but Councillor Bronwyn, you have raised a point in, and well, I take you speaking forward. Okay. With your question to CE about council and tracks and stuff like that. Anyway, what I'm going to ask for now, this back on track, is the speakers against the motion. Councillor Berry, you did indicate, but you're going to speak for the motion.
I'm like you, Mr Mayor, I'm partly for it, partly against the
Well,
motion.
I'll hear you, I'll take you, but then I'll go to CE for a bit of report. Okay. Any questions from Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. I'm a little bit confused with, or I could construe multiple meetings for feasibility of constructing mountain bike tracks, whether it's council constructing them or council advocating for the construction of, or facilitating the advocation for construction of, or whether it's actually council building mountain bike tracks. That's a little bit
that's where I was
ambiguous as far as I understand.
Well, the feasibility is, who does it? Is it feasible for council to do it, or is it feasible to put it out to private enterprise? I can't see a problem with the wording.
I'll go here first, Councillor Baldwin, and I'll come to you. Councillor Merrick.
I'm like you, Mr Mayor, with this motion. Do we get council to find some place to do it, or do we get council to get a group to advocate for it? When I first was elected to council, Councillor Murray and myself went to I don't know what you call it, a great feast anyway, up at Mount Clooney. Terry Moody arranged that, and he said to me, this area, Shire, should be having mountain biking. That was 6 or 7 years ago. I could not think of any way I could bring it to council until Councillor Murray, Councillor Nish just did now. For mountain biking, don't get me wrong there, I'm just not too sure what role council should be playing in this. There's plenty of places to take mountain bikes. You've got tracks all along the border itself that were put there by the TIC staff. They're still all open. Some of them are extremely mountain bikey. Actually, people used to take bloody motorbikes to top of Broad Rock too at one stage ago, which is, I couldn't imagine national parks allowing that now. But getting back on the track, what is it called? Tunnelbill High Country. They've already put in for an application for a grant to construct tracks. They've contacted the mountain bike. There are people that are interested in actually running a mountain bike park on their place as well as their camping. The two go in pretty well together. So something like that I support, but as for council getting too involved other than trying to find a venue or whatever, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Watt.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I sort of agree with what the last couple of speakers have said about the way the motion is written, but I think that council involvement here would be not to construct tracks, not to do any of that. I'd like to see that changed or amended to council approach state forests with a view of identifying suitable areas available within the state forest within Tenterfield Shire. I know there's stuff up near Urbanville, stuff at Basket Swamp, stuff at Craig, and get them on board first. So I think we should amend the motion to read something along those lines.
Well, you're indicating, I'll come back to you to deal with that. Councillor Braun, before we go there, you raised a really good point, Councillor, because where we are today, right, and let's imagine it. So if our tourism office gets contacted by a group, if they're coming in to blow their hair back, do whatever for a few days, and said, oh, is there anywhere to go mountain bike riding? Obviously, that would our staff be saying, no, there's nowhere in Tenterfield, right today. Is am I correct in saying that?
No, they would be saying yes, because, can I just...
Yeah, I'm happy for the conversation.
They got to the stage, local National Parks Office is very supportive. I saw Michael Lieberman on Thursday or Friday, and he said they actually got to the stage of getting professional photos done of people with bikes out there in different locations. So National Parks actually has a state strategy in relation to mountain biking. Of course, they can't go constructing a lot of big tracks. I mean, they've got, it's the single track thing, which is some of the stuff like John's referring to, besides the long distance trails and things. So I was going to suggest that it reads that council complete the cycle roadway and track maps and descriptions and support the construction of mountain bike tracks, blah, 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 blah. And get rid of if and when funding becomes available.
By private, not by us, by private.
Because we don't have suitable land. So my proposed amendment is that council complete the cycle, roadway and track maps and descriptions with relevant organisations, which is National Parks and State Forest, as well as private people.
Yeah.
And support the construction of mountain bike tracks in the Shire with the aim of attracting bikers to Tenterfield, full stop. To Tenterfield Shire.
So you're flagging an amendment,
Yeah.
okay, to that. And you would
Because a lot of the work has already been done for it, and it's quite good.
stick with Noel while she prints it up.
Okay, so can you just read that out?
Please.
That council complete the cycle, or you could call it that council complete the, well, it's actually cycle because they had some around town too. So that council complete the cycle, roadway and track maps and descriptions, comma, and support the construction of mountain bike tracks in Tenterfield Shire. Because it comes back to expanding nature-based adventure and cultural tourism places and enhancing user experiences. It comes back to our strategic plan of providing a wide range of high-quality, well-maintained, active and passive recreation.
It fits in plenty of that.
And it's not noisy.
We'll deal, I'm all over the place, but we'll deal with that. Councillor Swire, need to go to you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My major concern, and I share Bron's concern with the original, I think in the wording of the amendment, the word support intimates that you are chipping in. I think the word encourages the development.
Good point.
And that's all I need to adjust for.
Okay.
Well, actually, development's good because some roads are already there. So
Councillor Murray, are you speaking to the amendment or on the original recommendation?
I'm speaking against the amendment.
Against the amendment. Well, the amendment's not there yet because they haven't got a second. So do you want to just curl your heels for a bit? Councillor Peters. With respect, I say that, Councillor. And Councillor Peters, are you speaking to the recommendation or are you speaking to the amendment?
Not for
Or the amendment's not
I
done
think it's difficult to speak on both. The thing is, the TNFM, they looked into this 12 months ago, and they're nearly ready to go, to come to council and suggest it all. And the business association, they ran with it, they were going to do it. So they've done nothing, and TNFM hasn't gone any further. So there's a lot of interest in the community, but it hasn't happened.
Okay. Right, Councillor Petrie, Brian Petrie, we'll deal with your amendment. So you moved it, you happy with the wording?
No, I'm happy to take the changes that
Yeah,
you advised.
instead of support.
And then I'll second the motion.
Yeah, okay.
And
So, support as encourage?
Encourage the
Encourage,
development.
councillor?
Encourage the development.
Okay,
And get rid of support for construction.
okay. Before we go on, and councillor McGee, 100% out of respect, my issue with this as chair of the meeting and as mayor, I can't, just the way the recommendation reads, that's my concern. I'm fully supportive of anything we're going to do in this council, but that reads to me that council's going to do all this, and there lays my concern. That's all. I need to clear that with you, so you don't bash me once the meeting's finished. Okay? Well, yes, councillor.
I'm just pleased that this promoted so much discussion, which means.
Oh, well, we're trying to get it right.
It's a good issue. Yeah. But I think that Bronwyn's amendment is actually putting the cart before the horse.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Councillor Bob, I'm dealing with the amendment, I need to get back on track. What are you speaking to?
I'd like to speak against the amendment.
Well, we haven't got, just at the moment, I'll go on and get things back on track. Councillor Petrie, you're first. Councillor Sawyer, you're second. Councillor Petrie, do you want to present your amendment now? Speak to your amendment.
And there was, Mr. Mayor, just to get us to move forward and take the actual construction of the tracks away from council as per the original wording. But I'm happy for any comment to improve on it just so that it happens.
Yeah. Councillor Sawyer, out of respect to the second, I'll come to you, but the CEO wants just a comment, and it's to do with meeting procedure and a bit of advice.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, should the words investigate and report back, as the amendment reads at the moment, it's a fait accompli that this will be an action, not an investigation report back. Whether it takes an hour or a year of someone's time is immaterial if council decides that that's what they're going to do. I put it to council that it would be better to have some words at the front, similarly to the original recommendation above, with something to do with investigation reporting back, so that the council get a couple of bites at the cherry about what effort and what resources they want to spend on this, subject to what the investigation comes up with.
Being a mover, councillor, yes, you can reply.
Thing is, they've already done most of it because I wasn't aware either, but it was only after talking to National Parks that they said, we did all this work. They had a working group. They've actually done 11 documents, or actually 13 documents in relation to it that are ready to print. With both what you can see, they've got the cycle, the pathways.
This is National Parks Council.
This is and in tourism office.
Okay.
So council has already done this in conjunction with National Parks and some private operators. We're not sure who the private people are.
So that answers, just quickly, that answers my question. If someone was visiting our shire and asked that very question at our big centre, Tourist Information Centre, where can I ride my mountain bike? They didn't show them then.
Well, I don't know if these are available yet for a release, but they're already there, ready to go. But they hadn't, what their next step was going to go out and get photos of people on their bikes on these tracks. But that doesn't stop you from actually having these maps, and it's got a description of Cottesbrook Road description. Combination ride starting on Newland Highway before turning on this, going through undulating road before blah blah blah, downhill cruise, blah 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 blah. It just gives you a description. This is not onerous work. This is a case of let's just complete, or even just get out to one centre there. There's been no work done with State Forest. That's why I had the word to complete. The National Parks ones are done.
Right. Okay. Right, councillors, as a whole. We're dealing with the amendment. Councillor Sawyer, you're the second. Do you want to speak to the amendment?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Reading the amendment again and taking on board the CEO's comments, I think Bronwyn and I would have to add the first line of the original recommendation, plus the words feasibility of, insert that in the front of our amendment, and then add at the back end with the aim of attracting bikers to Tenterfield. I think wording of the recommendation has been caught in the second part. Either we scrap the recommendation and the amendment and come up with a new one, or do a merge of the two. But at the moment, the way it's wording, our amendment is actually in contradiction of the recommendation, should be accepted.
Yep. We're dealing with the amendment. Okay. So, councillor, as a seconder, you've suggested that that sentence be put up the top.
Yeah, that the chief executive investigate and report back to the council on the feasibility
Okay.
of completing the cycle, roadway and track maps and descriptions.
What council in there?
Council
Maybe the
Yeah,
council?
yeah, can live with that.
Council.
Roadway and track maps and description and encourage the development of mountain bike tracks in Tenterfield Shire.
With the aim of attracting bikers to Tenterfield.
Okay. Councillor Petrie, being the mover, are you happy with those add-ons?
Yeah, well, I mean, well, it's fine, but to me it's no brainer since it's already there.
Okay.
But can we take that, and completing?
I knew you.
We purposely put that in there for you. Now, Councillor Murray, I do apologise. I'm coming to you now because you did indicate you wish to speak against the amendment.
Just give me a moment to take my feet out of the cold.
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, look, as much as I commend Councillor McNeish for it, I think it's a wonderful idea that draws people into the area, any part of the area of the Shire. I think it's wonderful. But I do object to council money going in there. I think it's misuse of council's money to spend the ratepayers' money on this. And I think, by all means, council act in a very supportive way, but by no means no commitment. None.
Okay. So, Councillor, with you speaking against it, you're of the opinion that the amendment doesn't indicate that, to be supportive of such a thing.
I'd be supportive of that coming in, but apart from a supportive role of council, I mean, these things do cost a lot of money in the end.
Yep. Councillor Bob, you indicated, and I apologise to you to only just get to you now.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was going to speak against the amendment, but it's since been changed a little bit, but I'd still like some clarification. I just don't understand why, as per the amendment, we'd be asking the Chief Executive to investigate and report back on feasibility of something that's already halfway completed, like the maps that Councillor Bronwyn Petrie's talking about have started. They're a long way down the track. So I think that the first sentence is sort of null and void. And I'm just wondering whether, like just from my own education, how come I wasn't aware that those maps were in existence or part in existence, that Tenterfield Tourism was doing those things. There's 11 documents, all that stuff. So how come that was never told to us at some tourism presentation report that we've already had?
Well, it's possibly that in fair comment, Council, but there's never a day when you can't improve, and if that's the case, it probably needs to be publicised more. Councillors, I need to get a meeting back on track again. We're dealing with an amendment, and it's been moved by Councillor Bronwyn Petrie and seconded by Councillor Greg Sawyer. Be aware that we'll vote on the amendment. If the amendment doesn't get up, then we'll go back to the recommendation. Okay? That's the meeting procedure is. Is there any other speakers against the amendment?
I want to speak anyway, just
Out of respect, Councillor, I'll allow that. Why not?
Only if he uses his microphone.
No. Somebody came up with the rural mapping bushfire meeting the other day. The rural fire service has got a lot of money to upgrade the fly trails.
Yep.
So that'll come into it as well. We were identifying essential fire trails to lead to various places.
Yep.
And they are identified all through the forest.
Yep.
And they've got a lot of money to upgrade them. Yep. So that's something if you start mountain bike riding, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Because they'll come in, you'll have to liaise with the rural fire service, see if you can use their road.
Okay, councillors, we'll put the amendment. The Chief Executive investigate, report back to Council on the feasibility of Council completing the cycle roadway and track maps and descriptions, and encourage the development of mountain bike tracks in Tenterfield Shire with the aim of attracting mountain bikes to Tenterfield. All in favour?
That's a good idea.
Against? The amendment's up. The amendment now becomes the recommendation. All in favour of the recommendation? Understand that? Right? Against? The recommendation's up. Okay, we move on to 101. page in your hard copy, councillors. RES 4/18, council resolution rest of May 2018. Move in a second here, please. To deal with this, councillors, please, move in a second. Anyone? Councillor Sawyer, second by Councillor Rogan. I hand over to our CE to present the council resolution rest.
Through you, Mr Mayor, any questions by exception, councillors?
Questions to the CE, councillors? Councillor Bronwyn?
Just one thing, on the industrial land sale, that's still waiting, we had asked for some information from the prospective buyer.
Yes.
Is that what the hold up is, just that information hasn't come back to us?
Through Mr Mayor, no, the Manager of Economic Development and Community Engagement's been on leave.
Any other questions to our CE? No? All happy to note the status? All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, that's the end of our ordinary business paper with addendums and all. We now move to the confidential part of our meeting. Would someone like to move, we go into confidential? Councillor Berry, second by Councillor Murray, all in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, councillors, we're back in our open meeting and as meeting procedure goes, we need to read out the recommendations from each of our items. On item EC 010/18, the officer's recommendation that council note the project delay occurred on awarding of the tender in the amount of $3,570,009.84, including GST, to MJ Smith Grant Preparation Limited, supplement to not receiving state and federal funding confirmation advice until 11th May 2018, and 2, note the current tender evaluation schedule. The next item, councillors, out of our this one. With an amendment, councillors, that council receive and note the progress report authorising progression to detailed design, which include the under and overloading of facility from a reinforcing yard, the provision of a safety management system of working from heights, one truck wash bay with established infrastructure which provides provision for second bay if required in the future, revised rigid pavement to be replaced with unsealed flexible pavement where from an engineering point of view this proves satisfactory. Limit council's financial exposure to previously determined position of 1.29 inclusive of the grant, understanding that possible and the design remain fit for the purpose that is designed to reduce this figure. That it is desirable to reduce this figure. I apologise. To do with that item, councillors, to do with item ENV 11/18, the officer's recommendation that council receive and note council's environmental risk review relating to sources of effluent overflow and most appropriate way forward. Note and endorse the capital requirements needed over the next 5 years to manage major overflow risk. 3, endorse the proposed EPA changes to council's STP operating licence. And to do with item ENV 12/18, the officer's recommendation that council 1 notes the GST error in the resolution 53/18 of its 28th of March 2018 ordinary meeting of council regarding report item ENV 7/18 Geotech Limited contract dispute status. 2, settles both the remainder of Geotech Limited 7-figure claim along with any other rights Geotech may have at law pertaining to their Tenterfield Dam construction contract in the amount of $290,000 excluding GST. Councillors, that brings our day to a close. I thank you all very much for your patience, spirit, bidding and attendance. The meeting is ended. Peace and harmony. Thank you.